The young man and his sister experienced a sweet duo. After a collision of ice and fire, it surprisingly cured a 40-year-old terminal illness. What was the reason behind this? The pure, elegant older sister, who used to blush at the mere glance of others, now completely changed her usual demeanor. She casually removed her top and walked straight toward Xiao Tang. She even struck an exaggerated pose. Tang, who had never seen such a scene, had his nosebleed pouring out uncontrollably. Tang immediately pointed at Mo Yuking and said, "You're actually using this to test the cadres. Get out of Yuking's body, you dead stream of blind energy." Suddenly, Mo Yuking closed her eyes, and a blue light began to radiate from her body. Then a sprightly young man emerged, grinning and saying, "Did you see that? My supernatural power is amazing, right?" Tang, however, looked disdainful. "What kind of nonsense supernatural power is this? Specializes in these underhanded tactics? No time to waste, the young man is already attacking." Fortunately, Xiao Tang reacts in time. He counters with a punch to the head, but the young man instantly turns into an afterimage. The spirited young man smiles faintly. It's actually a pure yang attack. Xiao Tang is greatly shocked. How does he know this? Seeing Xiao Tang once again being tricked by that old man, looking like a little cutie, the energetic young man expressed regret. During the conversation, it was learned that the young man, named Yu Changxing, had been dead for 200 years. He also said there was a great treasure at the bottom of the spring to give to Xiao Tang. When they arrived at the bottom of the spring, Xiao Tang was stunned. He saw that the corpse was holding a glowing golden elixir. Unexpectedly, Xiao Tang's excessive force caused the corpse to fall apart. Yu Changxing immediately jolted. Upon learning that was Yu Changxing's Hu Hei, Xiao Tang quickly apologized. Yu Tang sighed. "It's fine, it does fine, dust to dust, earth to earth. You should hold this great elixir in your mouth." Little did he know Xiao Tang, for the happiness of his future life, swallowed the great elixir in one bite. Then intense spiritual energy covered Xiao Tang's body. The water in the hot spring immediately began to boil. Mo Yuking also woke up from her sleep. Of course, Mo Yuking couldn't see Yu Changxing, who was just a spiritual form. Seeing Xiao Tang in a bit of trouble, Yu Changxing immediately swam over to him. Just as he arrived, Yu Changxing immediately used the soul chain. The chain bound the two of them together. The two of them pressed tightly against each other. Amidst the fusion of ice and fire, the boiling spring water gradually calmed down. Seeing this, Yu Changxing quietly left after finishing his task. After the spiritual energy dissipated, looking at Mo Yuking, who collapsed in his arms, Xiao Tang was surprised to find that he wasn't vomiting blood from the backlash of the pure yang technique. Xiao Tang shed tears of excitement. "I finally broke through to the 9th level. When I was young, I didn't know how great my sister was." Mistaking the hammer for a treasure, the older sister and the hammer made the boy choose, but the boy said, "I want the hammer." The older sister, angry, hid inside the hammer. From then on, no matter how the boy pulled, the hammer remained motionless. Time passed like a fleeting moment. The 8-year-old boy quickly turned 18. Xiao Tang gathered all his strength. Today, he was determined to pull the hammer out. Suddenly, Xiao Tang's hand slipped. The hammer handle struck him hard. The young man was completely furious this time after 10 years. "Do you know how I've spent these 10 years? At this moment from behind, a huge sound echoed as the 9 Nether Evil King appeared. 10 years of pulling ropes had given him a pair of powerful arms. He was simmering with anger, looking for an outlet. The boy threw a punch. The Crab King was instantly torn to pieces. Unexpectedly, the Crab King's remaining power knocked Xiao Tang from the air. But the way he fell, this makes Xiao Tang's sphincter clench. Then with a loud bang, the mountainside collapsed. Only Xiao Tang and a hammer remained. The hammer floated into the air. A beautiful girl emerged from the hammer. She suddenly threw herself on Xiao Tang. She said shyly, "You rude man. You actually woke me up in such a barbaric way." Tang's mind raced. Then excitedly, he grasped the girl's hands. "Your performance was amazing. Could you perform it again?" Then the girl returned to the hammer. After 10 years of hardship, has the boy finally grown up? Has he finally understood that he can have both his sister and the hammer? "No, you're wrong." Xiao Tang directly broke the hammer. Then he kicked it into the air. "Damn you, useless hammer, ruining my life." His mother had once told him that pulling out the hammer would grant him divine power, which could help him revive the Tang dynasty. But to his surprise, what came out of the hammer was a woman. After returning home, Xiao Tang fell to his knees. "Mother, I accidentally broke the hammer." Before he finished speaking, his mother also fell to her knees. "A fairy lives inside the hammer, my daughter." Xi, having obtained the magical hammer, angrily kicked him. Then a bright idea struck him. He lied, claiming he no longer needed the magical hammer, having been guided by a master. The mother, upon hearing this, suddenly knelt down. She told him that he was not her biological son, but the heir to the Zitang royal family. She hoped he would use this divine power to restore the glory of Zitang. Suddenly Xi tightly hugged his mother. "No matter what, you will always be my mother. Xi will not fail your expectations." Seeing this, his mother was greatly relieved, so she arranged a group of beautiful women from the harem for Xiao Tang. However, Xiao Tang ran away from home overnight. Nevertheless, the enthusiasm of the women still covered Xiao Tang's face. Xiao Tang raised his fist and swore that his work had not yet been completed. How could he be distracted by romance? At that moment, a hammer flew out from behind him, directly knocked Xiao Tang off the cliff. Iron Hammer's sister was full of joy but ended up disappointed. So with tear-filled eyes, she shouted at the cliff, "Husband, oh husband, why can't you think this through?" Fortunately, Xiao Tang, who fell off the cliff, was blessed with great fortune. As soon as he opened his eyes, a young girl flew over his head. At the same time, a shuriken flew toward Xiao Tang. At the critical moment, the girl swung her longsword and struck the shuriken flying from his hand. At the same time, his longsword fell from his grip. It seems that the girl has been severely injured. At this moment, the man with a lecherous face began to shout, "Mo, you can surrender to me tonight. In this desolate mountain, even if you scream your lungs out, no one will save you." The girl said angrily, "You thief, you can dream on. Even if I let this young man go, you won't touch me a single bit." Seeing this, Xiao Tang stepped in to stop them, saying fighting is wrong. "You two, please give me Xiao Tang some face. Let's just stop here." The flower thief didn't pay any attention. He lunged towards the girl again. The fierce sword ki forced the girl to dodge quickly. But the sword kai didn't hurt the girl in the slightest. Only her clothes kept falling off. Little Tang was stunned upon seeing this. Could this be the long-lost martial art of the Jiangyu? Breaking the air, pulling a cup? Shedding clothes. The young girl could only shyly protect her chest. The flower thief proudly pointed at Xiao Tang. "Do you still expect this useless fool to save you? I love that stubborn look of yours." Then he revealed a lovesick expression and was about to attack the girl. At this critical moment, Sam stepped forward. This perverted man had stripped the girl of her clothes. Then we also invited Xiao Tang to watch together. Xiao Tang immediately called for a pause and said, "Please wait a moment. I have a much better idea. How about we expose those who watch the video but don't like it? Let's strip them bare as well. What do you think, perverted guy?" The suggestion sounds good. Was just about to take action. While the sleazy man wasn't paying attention, Xiao Tang grabbed his arm in one swift motion. At that moment, the sleazy man was full of shock and suspicion. This kid has such strong arm strength. Without saying a word, Xiao Tang landed a kick to his leg. The immense force sent the sleazy man flying. He crashed through a nearby wall. The impact sent him shooting off and he disappeared in an instant. But the girl beside him collapsed unconscious. Out of kindness, Tang decided to help the distressed girl. But Xiao Tang had no improper thoughts. He took out a magical medicine and applied it to the girl's wound. I have to say, the effect of the magical medicine was amazing. As soon as the medicine was applied, the girl opened her eyes. Suddenly, a big arm scooped her up and flung her directly into Xiao Tang's face. Then the girl ran away crying. "You pervert, poor girl, it's not fair. Xi Tang was just treating your wounds." Just then, an old man rushed out from the damaged temple, angrily pointing at Xi. "Is it you, damn bastard? You tore down my house and now you're paying for it." Xiao Tang immediately felt something was wrong. Mom said it's a big problem. The old man and woman, even if they went bankrupt, they wouldn't have enough to compensate. Without saying a word, the old man tried to carry Xiao Tang away, take him to sell and get money. No matter how much they tried to persuade him, he wouldn't let Xiao Tang go. Helpless, Xiao Tang used his unique skill again. "Actually, I'm an immortal. These holes were made by the so-called villains." But the old man did not believe him at all. "What rank are you on the Penglai Immortal ranking?" Xiao Tang had no idea. What Penglai Immortal ranking? Seeing that Xiao Tang didn't even know about the Xank list, the old man took out the identification stone. Xiao Tang, caught in a difficult situation, could only grit his teeth and place his hand on the identification stone. Then a golden light descended from the sky. After seeing the identification card, the old man's jaw dropped. This old geezer is quite mischievous. In an instant, he looked 40 years younger. The old man convinces Xiao Tang that he's a great candidate for cultivating immortality, and that he's the chosen one, so he forcibly transfers 40 years of his energy to Xiao Tang. Looking at the old man, who appeared 40 years younger, Xiao Tang didn't believe it at all. Could this guy be teaching him a poisonous technique? The old man, holding beauties in both arms, turned around and went upstairs. "After 40 years, I can finally be a real man. Hurry up and leave a dog emoji in the comments to save yourself. Otherwise, you'll be the next one this story is passed on to. So when you're out and about, never trust strangers." Xiao Tang had just left the tavern. A hammer struck him from behind, sending him flying. Xiao Tang turned around and saw the relentless Iron Hammer's sister, feeling a sense of dread. Without saying a word, Iron Hammer's sister immediately performed a powerful manlock move. Then she threw Xiao Tang to the ground. She also said she wanted to have a little hammer. But we don't understand why there's an audience hidden behind the Buddha statue. The three of them then started staring at each other. Iron Hammer's sister noticed something unusual through their eye contact. "Miss, you've misunderstood. Mo Yuking and the young master have nothing to do with each other." Iron Hammer's sister was furious, not caring whether it was rain or shine. She charged straight at Yuking's sister. In the next second, the fifth ranked on the divine weapon list, Xuan Bing Blade. It was directly and brutally bitten off. Mo Yuking saw this scene. She was reminded of when Xiao Tang had kicked the 30th place on the immortal ranking away with one kick. She secretly made a decision in her heart. Young master, please take me as your disciple. At this moment, Iron Hammer's sister spoke up. Unless you help us have a little hammer, I'll let my husband take you as his disciple. And so the following scene unfolded. Tai Hammer's younger sister, brimming with emotion, leaned in and kissed Xiao Tang. Suddenly, Xiao Tang felt his spiritual energy spiraling out of control. Instantly, a mouthful of old blood gushed out. The weakened Xiao Tang gradually closed his eyes. Could it be that Xiao Tang, having just entered the world and before achieving any feats, am going to be kissed to death by this hammer? Boys, when you're out in the world, you must protect yourselves. This younger sister is a pervert. She actually wants to have sex with Xiao Tang in the temple. Just as she was about to pounce on Xiao Tang, she discovered her older sister peeking from behind a Buddhist statue. Unexpectedly, the older sister expressed her desire to join in. She even said that having sex without a clear order of participants is no fun. The hammer-wielding younger sister accepted her older sister's suggestion. Unexpectedly, her first card was a winning bomb. Xiao couldn't handle the secondary machine. He instantly sprayed blood and fainted on the spot. So the two girls took Xiao Tang back to the temple to heal his injuries. When Xiao Tang woke up, he became angry when he saw Iron Hammer. He then transformed into a strong man and gave Iron Hammer a severe beating. At that moment, the old man came out to stop him. He said that this matter had nothing to do with Iron Hammer. It was because he had previously taught Xiao Tang the pure yang attack method. You must follow the 3 precepts of the spiritual sect. Abstain from lust, abstain from lust. Quit lust, you'll explode and die. Otherwise you'll explode and die. Xiao Tang shouted at the old man in anger. You old fool, you're so evil. I knew something was wrong with your technique. You're trying to make me lose my hairs. The old man told Xiao Tang not to panic, just cultivate the technique to the 9th level. Then you can ignore the color ring and become a human canon. So he comforted Xiao Tang, disciple, don't cry. Master also suffered for over 40 years because of poor aptitude. Seeing the old man's smug face, Xiao Tang was furious. Then he kicked the old man's face. Watching the old man fly thousands of miles away, Xiao Tang felt much better. Then he took out the secret martial arts manual and prepared to cultivate. But when he opened the manual, he was stunned. A fairy's letter to Zenji came into view. Xiao Tang angrily tore up the letter, but her sister, who brought the meal, saw it. Xiao hurriedly explained, it's not what you think. Her sister then said, I understand, Xiao Tang. You don't need to explain. Then Xiao Tang ignored it and switched to eating mode. At this moment, a group of tough guys barged in. He pointed at Xiao Tang and said he was going to charge a cleaning fee. Then he flipped Xiao Tang's table with one hand. Looking at this tough guy, it's clear he's been taught by the crow. This man with dyed yellow hair is General Yu from the Immortal Realm. At this moment, he is discussing a project with the man in the red robe. Even the Immortal World, General Yu only plays for real. Sure enough, General Yu brought a group of energetic guys to deal with Xiao Tang. At this point, his newly accepted female disciple Mo Yuking made her move. With a flick of the finger, the blade instantly shattered. The young man holding the knife instantly turned into a crystal-clear ice sculpture. Seeing this, Xiao Kala showed a look of terror. Suddenly, a voice rang out. The life-taking Ice Cube Jr. sister, what a coincidence. Since you're on my senior brother's territory, why not come to my general's mansion for a visit? It turned out that Mo Yuking had accidentally ingested a 1,000-year-old ice silkworm as a child, resulting in an ice-related illness. Because she needed strong immortal power to maintain her life, she became a disciple of the Penglai Pavilion. On the surface, he became the first disciple of the Golden Immortal of Penglai, but his true mentor was an elder imprisoned in the Penglai Pavilion. Soon after, he mastered the secret arts and became a Golden Immortal. His mentor was tragically killed by the Penglai Pavilion. The General Yu is a disciple of one of the 8 immortals of Penglai. By seniority, he is indeed senior brother Mo Yuting. At this moment, little Tang looked at Mo Yuting. Since he is your senior brother and you are my disciple, then it wouldn't be wrong for him to call me master. General Yu, standing nearby, heard this and his temples throbbed. He formed a fireball and attacked Xiao Tang's face. You little brat, dare to take advantage of me. Seeing this, Mo Yuking stepped forward to defuse the attack. She then used the secret technique Snowstorm. A wave of cold air spread to General Yu's feet, freezing him to the ground. Mo Yuking leaped into the air, drawing her ice sword and attacking him. General Yu also drew out his fire knife to block. The two of them exchanged moves, each unable to gain the upper hand. The speed was so extreme it was like a celestial battle. The onlookers could not make out their movements at all, but in the eyes of little Tang, who practiced pure yang techniques, it seemed like slow motion. Suddenly Mo Yuking missed a strike and exposed a flaw. With one swing of his knife, General Yu ended Mo Yuking's life. At that moment, little Tang instantly grabbed General Yu's wrist. Then he threw it away, saying, Go, don't send me off. Seeing that General Yu had been defeated, the person in the red cloak also prepared to escape. At that moment, an iron hammer fell from the sky and struck him. The person in red was about to fall, but Xiao Tang caught him. Xiao Tang held something soft in his hands. Turning around, he discovered that the person in the red cloak was actually a girl. He was originally Kunlin's #1 romantic. He chased for a girl for 100 kilometers, from Kunlun to the foot of Lingjian Mountain. But now that sexy girl with a 36th figure is lying in Xiaotang's arms. Seeing this, Tichu's sister immediately became jealous and argued with Xiaotang. The girl in the red robe saw that the hammer could talk and her eyes lit up instantly. Could this be the war god's hammer? At this moment, unable to argue with Taichu, Xiaotang instantly turned into a brute. He kicked Taichu's sister away. Seeing this, the girl in the red robe immediately chased after. Looking at the poor, pitiful sister with the hammer, the girl in the red robe immediately offered to teach her how to chase men. Really? Meanwhile, Kunlun disciple Yi, with deep feelings, entered the Taoist temple. He started introducing all his titles. Things like I've been an idol for 2.5 years. In short, he just wanted to make it clear that he's not someone you can mess with. Where have you hidden the girl? Hand over the person or you'll regret it. Xiaotang looked around but couldn't find the woman in the red robe. So he told him that the woman in the hammer had run off. You're trying to fool me? Brother, stop him. Beat him up. Seeing this, Mo Yuking immediately conjured a blue orb. Xiaotang snatched the blue orb. Then using the genie Taimei move, all the little Karamis were blown away. Seeing this, Zifeng was shocked and dismayed. But for the sake of the girl, he could only draw his sword and fight Xiaotang. Zifeng swung his large sword, shouting, "Taste my lock dragon dance." Suddenly, Xiaotang used a powerful Big B move, sending Zifeng flying. Zifeng covered his face, but his words were firm. "You little punk, you dare to hit me?" In the next moment, Xiaotang's slap repeatedly rubbed against Zifeng's face. She then picked up a large knife and was about to chop firewood for Mu Yuking. Unable to bear the humiliation, Zifeng, in despair, ran toward the cliff, crying and shouting that she no longer wanted to live. At that moment, Xiaokara quickly grabbed her. "Master, if you jump down from here, you won't die." Why bother? Victory and defeat are common in battle. Losing a top-tier golden immortal is nothing to be ashamed of. At this point, Xiaotang, standing nearby, didn't forget to add insult to injury and pulled out a card. "Actually, I'm a low-level P-ranked wood fairy." The situation immediately became awkward. At that moment, Zifeng could no longer hold back. She leapt out toward the edge of the cliff. Have you ever seen such a sexy fairy sister? The sister said that as long as you give a thumbs up and dog head emoji, you can order her around. There are 7 sisters like her in this sect. Xiaotang just pushed open the door. A girl raised an axe and swung it at them. Xiaotang quickly knocked Mu Yuking down. Mu Yuking was still injured by the axe. Xiaotang revealed his identity and asked the girl why she attacked. The girl, upon learning that Xiaotang was the new leader of the sect, instead made an unreasonable demand. "Hit me or get out of the sect immediately." Hearing this, Xiaotang swiftly slapped the girl and sent her flying. Xiaotang couldn't help but sigh. This was the first time he had encountered such an unreasonable request. Then 6 rays of spiritual light flashed across the sky. 6 girls with devilish figures descended from the sky. The girl simply brushed past Xiaotang. He immediately coughed up a mouthful of blood. The girl smiled faintly upon seeing this. "Little brother, your body is so weak, the sect leader wouldn't approve of this, but if you can snatch the token from us, you can have anything you want, it's all yours." With the Pure Yang attack technique, facing a girl directly halves your combat power. Xiaotang helped but furrow his brows. He was afraid that before he could take the token, he would have already vomited blood and died. In this situation, only the Ancestral Master could be called upon. Suddenly, the girl with the twin hooks made the first move, but her speed was just too slow. Xiaotang threw her away with one move, then she dodged the spear-wielding girl's attack by sidestepping. Before the girl could react, she had already snatched the second token with a flying dragon exploring the cloud's hand technique. Then she used one hand to block the staff-wielding girl's sneak attack. Pulling the girl forward, she instantly lost her balance. The third token was also obtained. But at this moment, the increasingly weakened Xiaotang was almost hit by the meteor hammer. Xiaotang grabbed the meteor hammer in one swift motion. He then attempted a binding play on the girl. At that moment, the hammer girl had already made her move. With one swing, she released a massive shockwave, sending Xiaotang flying 13 meters into the air. The archer girl seized the opportunity and shot several arrows. Xiaotang threw the meteor hammer and blocked all the arrows. The archer girl was blown away by the meteor hammer in return. But by this point, Xiaotang was too exhausted to continue fighting. The 3 girls suddenly attacked Xiaotang together. At this moment, Mo Yuking stood in front of Xiaotang. "No vile creatures will harm my master." He had just gone through an absurd sect master test. Xiaotang, who was not good at dealing with women, was instead knocked unconscious by his sister. When he woke up again, his gaze turned to the side. His newly accepted female disciple, who had been with him for 2 days, was shyly looking at him. "What the heck?" Seeing this, Xiaotang quickly grabbed the blanket off Mo Yuking. "I treat you as a disciple, and you're actually lusting after my body. You little brat, give my blanket back." I don't even know what happened. At that moment, Ren Xiao came out to clear up the misunderstanding. It turned out that Mo Yuking, in order to block the attacks from the three weapon spirits, had frozen them using her domain of perception, but he couldn't control this power himself, leading to a cold toxin attacking his heart, and he fainted. Ren Xiao used yin and yang harmony to temporarily suppress their inner spiritual power. Only by passing through the Seven Swords Pavilion can they completely control it, but the slightest mistake could lead to their deaths. Learning of the Seven Swords Pavilion's extreme danger, Xiao Tang turned to leave, but Ren Xiao hurriedly stopped him. Then with a mischievous smile he pointed at Mo Yuking and said, "I've touched her. This girl is absolutely stunning enough. You've seen her body too. You just can't don't you wanna?" Xiao Tang's face flushed instantly. "Don't talk nonsense. If the netizens find out, how can I maintain my image as a righteous gentleman?" Ren Xiao continued, "As long as you successfully pass the level, you can break free from your inhibitions and become a human cannonball." As soon as he finished speaking, a heavy blow landed on his chin and jaw, watching Ren Xiao fly miles away. Mo Yuking suddenly remembered that he hadn't told her how to open the stone gate. Little Tang had already thrown a punch without anyone knowing. It wasn't that complicated, just a punch. When the two walked through the stone gate, they found themselves in mid-air. Suddenly with a bang, Mo Yuking felt dizzy, but the ground beneath her was soft. Looking down, she found herself sitting on Little Tang. Mo Yuking quickly covered her reddening face. Xiao Tang awkwardly smiles. It's okay, master doesn't feel pain." The two of them look around. They notice a moon hanging on the mountain across from them. It seems that the first trial is there. The two of them then head towards the mountain top. Suddenly the mountain top shakes violently, and it looks like they will be buried by falling boulders. Mo Yuking immediately casts an ice shield to block, but they are still knocked back and sent flying. Meanwhile, the snow on the mountaintop collapsed. After the calm, Mo Yuking found Xiao Tang buried under the heavy snow. She quickly dug Xiao Tang out. Seeing Xiao Tang shivering, Mo Yuking noticed a cave nearby. Unexpectedly, there was a hot spring inside the cave. Xiao Tang was comfortably soaking in the hot spring. Suddenly, he felt something was wrong. When he turned around, a young man with a spirited look was staring at him intently. Xiao Tang pointed at the energetic young man and immediately shouted. Mo Yuking rushed over upon hearing the sound, but only saw Xiao Tang acting like a fool. The energetic young man laughed out loud and said, "Stop calling, she can't see me. This is my special ability. Ordinary people can't see me." Just as Xiao Tang was still confused, suddenly the young man turned into a beam of light and swiftly entered Mo Yuking's body. Then Mo Yuking revealed a seductive smile. The young man and his sister shared a sweet duo experience. After collision of ice and fire, it actually cured an incurable disease that had lasted for 40 years. What is the reason? The pure and charming older sister, who used to blush at the slightest glance from others, has now changed her appearance. She casually took off her top and walked straight towards Xiao Tang. Then she struck an exaggerated pose. Xiao Tang, who had never seen such a sight, spurted nosebleeds profusely. Xiang immediately pointed at Mo Yuking and said, "You actually used this to test the cadres? Get out of Yuking's body, you damn blind thing." Suddenly Mo Yuking closed her eyes and a blue light emanated from her body. Immediately afterwards, a spirited young man popped out, chuckling and saying, "See, my supernatural powers are amazing." Xiao Tang, however, looked disdainful. "What crap supernatural powers? You only do such low-down deeds. There's no time, the young man has already attacked." Lucky Xiao Tang reacted in time. He countered with a punch that hit his head. The young man instantly turned into an illusion. The young man smiled slightly, revealing it was a pure yang attack method. Xiao Tang was greatly shocked. How could he know? Seeing that Xiao Tang was yet another adorable victim of that old fool, the young man expressed his regret. In the conversation, it was learned that the young man, Yu Qianxing, had been dead for 200 years. He also mentioned that there was a great treasure at the bottom of the spring that he wanted to give to Xiao Tang. Upon reaching the bottom of the spring, Xiao Tang was stunned. He saw a skeleton holding a large pill that emitted a golden glow. Unexpectedly, Xiao Tang applied too much force, causing the skeleton to fall apart. Yu Tianxing immediately jolted awake. He learned, "It's the corpse of Yu Tianxing." Xiao Tang quickly apologized. Yu Tianxing sighed. All right, dust to dust, earth to earth. You should hold this elixir in your mouth." Little did Xiao Tang know, for the sake of his future happiness, he swallowed the great elixir. Then fairy spiritual energy enveloped Xiao Tang. The water in the hot spring immediately began to boil. Mo Yuking also woke up from her sleep. Naturally, Mo Yuking couldn't see Yu Tianxing, who was only a spiritual entity. She noticed that Xiao Tang's condition seemed a bit serious. She swam straight towards Xiao Tang. Just in time, seeing this, Yu Tianxing immediately activated the soul chain. The chain bound the two of them together. Then their bodies pressed tightly together. Under the fusion of ice and fire, the boiling spring water gradually subsided. Seeing this, Yu Tianxing left after finishing his business. After the spiritual energy dissipated, looking at Mo Yuking lying in his arms, Xiao Tang surprisingly found that he hadn't vomited blood from the backlash of the pure yang skill. Xiao Tang shed tears of excitement. "I've finally broken through to the 9th level. On his wedding night, he was locked up in a dungeon by his wife. The vicious woman inflicted 180 kinds of torture on him. But the woman does not know that the man she is tormenting before her was once the teacher of the 10 great emperors from 700 years ago. 700 years ago, the man had a mysterious seal placed upon him while still in his mother's womb. No matter how he cultivated, his cultivation could only remain at the ki refining stage. Yet despite this, he managed to refine his inner true ki to an astonishing level. With martial arts formations and alchemy, he excels in all. The eternal sword technique, he is capable of mastering everything. Until the end, he cultivated 10 disciples at the Grand Emperor level. If it weren't for your guidance, I would just be a coward. How could there be the free and unrestrained martial emperor in this world? I would rather trade my entire cultivation for master to lift the seal on my dantian. Who could have imagined that the man who spoke these words was actually the free and unrestrained martial emperor, who was known as the martial myth 2,000 years ago? These disciples, who have not yet ascended, are desperately helping their master resist the lightning tribulation. Meanwhile, he has been suppressing his own aura. This is to draw the most powerful lightning tribulation. Breaking the seal with lightning is his final option. Either break the seal or die. The void-penetrating lightning tribulation is overwhelmingly powerful. In the end, he still overestimated his own endurance. Fortunately, just before his body was destroyed, a fragment of his soul managed to escape in time. This left a trace of life. After 700 years of wandering souls, he finally chose to reincarnate in the body of this useless son-in-law of the Gu family. He waited to awaken his past life memories. From the day he entered the Lua family, he was locked in this dungeon. He fainted again and again under the torment of his beautiful yet vicious wife. Today the woman completely lost her patience. She didn't expect that after so long, she only got a fragment of the sword manual from the man. She killed him with one palm strike and dumped his body in the wilderness. After the man died, countless memories suddenly flooded her mind. I am the Imperial Two. The seal that imprisoned me for tens of thousands of years has finally been broken. After waking up, Guxichin finally managed to digest the memories of tens of thousands of years. I never imagined the host's fate would be so tragic. Her 13-year-old sister is to be forced to marry into the Ling family, and that man is a complete sadist. Meanwhile, inside the Gu family's main hall, Gyu kneels in the hall, her face full of pleading as she looks around. The man she's to marry, that Pigsy, has a notorious reputation. In the past 2 years, many young women have entered the Ling family, only to merge as battered corpses. But the great patriarch coldly said, "Marriage is a serious matter. How can a junior like you decide it? Young Master Ling has come here today with full sincerity, and he deserves your respect. How can you refuse him?" As soon as these words were spoken, Gu Yan's face turned hopeless. When she saw the lecherous look in Ling Ba's eyes, her body trembled violently. The man, overcome with desire, immediately ordered his subordinates to rush in and seize the woman. "I didn't come to the Gu family today to ask for their opinion. Ling Bai, I'm taking you away right now. Ling family's young master, anyone who dares to oppose can step forward." Ling Ba. The Gu family no longer has the protection of the Lua family. They're nothing but a bunch of useless fools. But just then a beam of light suddenly struck. Each of those two had a blood hole appear in their foreheads and collapsed instantly. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to change their expressions dramatically. Used my whole life to exchange for 2 years of lingering breath. Now he's setting his sights on my younger sister. The person who came as Guxuanzu. His gaze icy as he stared at the patriarch. "Do you remember when I married into your family? You old scoundrel, once promised to protect Yuan for a lifetime. Is this how you protect her?" Seeing her brother after so many years, Yuan rushed towards him. The moment Ling Bei realized, his eyes were filled with disdain. "I wondered who was. Turns out it's you, the useless son-in-law of the Gu family. You've been locked in the dungeon for 2 years and now you want to die. Just in time, tonight I'll make you kneel and watch me and your sister share a bridal chamber." Excited, Ling Bei immediately drew the sword of one of his subordinates and charged forward. This seemingly ferocious attack was actually full of flaws in Gu Xuanqing's eyes. In the blink of an eye, a cold light flashed, and Ling Bei's right arm was severed by a single strike. "Gu Xuanqing, are you insane? How dare you harm young Master Ling?" The great patriarch's figure flashed and stood in front of Ling Ba. "A mere junior of the Ling family has forced you to wag your tail in submission. What use is there in keeping such a Gu family?" As Gu Xuanqing's gaze swept over them, the debate was heated, and many members of the ancient families lowered their heads. The patriarch of the great family was furious and embarrassed. "Today I will destroy you, this rebellious beast. I'll apologize to young Master Ling." Heavily net sword technique. The patriarch struck with the deadliest move from his family's swordsmanship, a technique known for its ruthless killing power. How dare a mere early-stage Earth Spirit Realm cultivator be so arrogant? The old man has let you live long enough, it's time for you to go. The great patriarch's brilliant sword light shattered the moment it touched the supreme sword intent. In his face full of horror, his body was pierced by chaotic swords. This is actually the ancient sword intent. I didn't expect Xuanqing to have comprehended the family as sword intent. He only has true calm. If he had not truly comprehended the ancient sword technique, how could he possibly kill the patriarch of the earth spirit realm in an instant? The people of all tribes couldn't help but exclaim, because the sword technique passed down by the Gu family through the generations was created by the sky-supporting sword emperor. Only Guxuanshan knows that this so-called ancient sword technique is merely a fragment of a page, and the master of the Gu family's imperial scriptures was in fact Kun Tian, a disciple of the sky-supporting sword emperor from 10,000 years ago. He ultimately reached the Tao Emperor realm, and was titled the sky-supporting sword emperor. I never expected that 1,000 years later, everywhere would be marked by his disciples. Sighing, Guxuan sat both helpless and somewhat proud. Just as he was about to deal with everyone, the elders directly chose to kneel and submit. Guxuanshan has comprehended the true meaning of the family sword technique. No one else can take this position. I won't accept it. Guxuan gave the clan members a cold glance. This way it's better, saving him time. After handling family matters, Guxuanshan planned to begin his cultivation. In his previous life, although he had cultivated many Emperor Realm powerhouses, the Emperor books his disciples comprehended when they achieved the Emperor Realm were more perfect than his own. After a moment's hesitation, he ultimately chose Shaoxi's Sio Emperor book. Once the cultivation technique was activated, the originally empty Danshan immediately swelled. Because of the seal, he remained at the key condensation realm. He has always been unable to extract spiritual energy. Although he has never directly encountered spiritual energy, he is not unfamiliar with it. This is the very spiritual energy he sought to introduce into his body in his past life, while Guxuanshan was practicing the free and easy technique. In the main hall of the Xiao sect thousands of miles away, the sect's leaders all looked like they had seen a ghost. This was because they suddenly saw the mouth of the ancestor statue move. Then a broken and intermittent voice reached their ears. Westerning City. Geniuses, please join the sect. The founding ancestor of the Xianio sect was once the renowned Xianio martial emperor of the Qinyan continent. After ascending to the holy domain, he has never contacted the lower realms. Even when the sect almost faced annihilation, he never sent a message across realms. What kind of talent could make the ancestor take such notice? Thinking of this, the sect master dared not be negligent. He immediately summoned all the elders in the sect to inform them of this matter. The elders' eyes lit up upon hearing this. They heard that Elder Mohi had taken a direct disciple in Anyang City. At only 18 years old, she had already broken through to the Xiaoling realm. It must be her that the Grandmaster was referring to. The sect master flew into a rage after hearing this. Even Mohi dared to take the Grandmaster indicated genius as his disciple. Even I, the sect master, wouldn't dare. Quickly send a message to Elder Mo to bring the genius back to the sect, to avoid any accident. Meanwhile, Guxuanshan successfully broke through to the Xiaoling realm. Even in his past life as the strongest cultivator on the continent, he couldn't hide his excitement. The path of martial arts acquire refinement begins. Then comes the spirit stage, divided into Xiaoling realm and Qianling realm. The heaven-human stage, divided into cave heaven realm and human emperor realm. The heaven-human stage, void stage, divided into void realm and return to reality realm. The mirrored laws realm is divided into dharma aspect realm and golden body realm emperor realm. The saint realm is divided into yin-yang realm and saint realm void realm. And the emperor realm is the ultimate limit of the continent. If an emperor realm cultivator shatters the void, they can enter the sacred domain. Now he has broken through the spirit realm. This is something he, in his past life, yearned for 10,000 years but could never achieve. Who would have thought it would be so easy in this life? Born into the Gyuhan martial arts family, he naturally understands this as well. What does small spiritual realm mean? Lud Sheningzi was also noticed by Elder Memedmai of the Xiao sect because she broke through to the small spiritual realm at the age of 18. She was taken as his personal disciple. At this moment, the voice of the elder came from outside. Guxuanshan told the woman to wait for him here. When he arrived at the main hall, several elders quickly said, Miss Lo was just taken to the Xiao sect by Elder Mana. Moreover, Elder Menhe placed a Xiao order on the roof of the Lu family house. Gushin chuckled. He hasn't repaid the debt that's tormented him for 2 years, and he's running away now. It's not that easy. These words startled the elders. The priority now isn't whether Miss Lu left. It's the order on restrainedness. That's the absolute protection of the Xiao sect. Even the imperial family must pay their respects before entering the Lua family. So what? Guxuanshan didn't care at all. Now that he has offended the Ling family and been rejected by Miss Lu, the clan members discussed repeatedly, and wanted to ask the family head if he could hand over the complete ancient sword manual to make amends with the Luo family. As soon as these words came out, a trace of killing intent appeared on Guxuanshan's face. Then he picked up his cup and smashed it against that person's head. When have you ever had the right to decide how I do things? Guxuanshan, upon learning that Lu Shengshu was under the protection of the Xiao sect, felt no fear whatsoever. In his eyes, the Lu family was doomed. If you are afraid of being implicated, you can leave the Gu family. But instead of being grateful, these clansmen kept pressing him. They demanded he hand over the complete sword technique. Guxuanshan smiled faintly, clearly stubborn and unyielding. Come with me together, I'm in a hurry. Everyone sensed the terrifying aura of the family head. None dared to take a step forward. Only the three clan leaders remained in place, constantly urging them on. At that moment, Gookswanchen's spiritual energy began to stir, and his momentum suddenly changed. I actually think they are smarter than you? Everyone's expression changed as they sensed the sword intent. Gookswanchen looked at them with a faint smile. They are just a group of ants. The power of the imperial decree cannot be challenged by the likes of you. With a cold shout, Zong Gookswanchen casually unleashed an attack. The sword intent around instantly transformed into something both formless and substantial. It surged like a tidal wave towards the elders of the three clans. Amid the crisp sounds of countless metals clashing, deep muffled groans could be heard emanating from the sword lights. When everything settled down, the three clan elders, along with several clan uncles, each had a blood hole on their bodies. He had already collapsed in a pool of blood. He then ordered everyone to clean up the body. Without turning his head, he left. But just as he left, Yu Yuhang quickly followed him out. In his hand, the 7 spears moved rapidly, stabbing again and again into the bodies of several people. In a moment, the bodies were reduced to a bloody mess. The people of the clan were filled with horror in their eyes. No one could believe that the once meek and submissive girl could have such a cruel side. After venting, Yuhun stood up and scanned everyone with a cold gaze. My brother is merciful, but I'm not so kind. If anyone dares to betray my brother in the future, this will be the result. The trembling clansmen quickly cupped their fists in response. In their hearts, Gu Yuan seemed even more terrifying than Guk Suchin. She noticed the expressions on everyone's faces. Yuan turned around and smiled. I don't want my brother to know what just happened. Back in her room, Gu Yuan couldn't help but tremble. Her face instantly turned pale and she vomited. But she knew very well that her brother was busy with important matters. She had to manage the household well for him. Meanwhile, Guk Suchin had arrived at the pill hall. This is a crucial intelligence hub on the Kinyan continent, primarily selling pills and purchasing various cultivation resources, formulas, and herbs, and he came here to sell a pill formula. A female attendant quickly brought him in. His arrival immediately drew everyone's attention. Isn't that Goose? Just after being dismissed by Lu Shengshu, he's trying to cling to Miss Qingju. At this moment, the cold and beautiful young woman sitting at the table slowly raised her head. What brings you here? Gookswanchen ignored everyone. He walked to the table, took out a prescription, and handed it in front of the woman. Miss Qingju, please give me an estimate. Qingju merely glanced at it indifferently. Tangsing branches, frostless leaves. Still asleep in dragon grass. With a single palm, she shattered the prescription into pieces. This prescription will not be accepted. She snorted cold. Is this really a prescription? The names of those herbs on it, I've never even heard of them. First they were thrown out by Lu Shengshu. Now they come to my pill hall trying to deceive us. Do they think we're fools? As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd below couldn't help but start whispering, but Gookswanching only gave a contemptuous smile. You really are so ignorant. He was afraid that King Yu would not recognize the value before coming here. What he took out was already the lowest level pill formula in his memory. But King Yu, who is hailed as the #1 genius in the pill Dao of Anyang City, when has she ever been looked down upon like this? She sternly shouted, since you're so confident, do you dare to bet pills with me? Gookswanch smiled faintly. I was just worried I had nowhere to refine pills. I didn't expect this little girl to come to my door on her own initiative. I'll take your life. The two of them need to refine a second-tier breaking spirit pill each. Half an hour later, the winner will be determined by the pill's quality. Gookswanchen made a hand gesture. Then a flash of spiritual light struck the array pattern. The earth fire surged into the sky, instantly scorching the pill furnace. But this earth fire is too weak. Gookswanchen sighed softly and suddenly changed the hand seal in his hand. He directly drew all the earth fire here into his room. He watched as the flames in the alchemy furnace began to change from red to purple, burning rapidly. He nodded with satisfaction. That's more like it. On the other side, Qingju, who had also entered the alchemy room, looked at the weak earth fire under the alchemy furnace. Her brows furrowed deeply. No matter how she used the fire control pill technique, the flames wouldn't grow stronger. Just then, the door of an adjacent alchemy room was forcefully thrown open. Amidst the thick smoke and full odor, a middle-aged man jumped out. This man was Tao Hai, the leader of the Dan Hall. He stared with a pained expression at the Dan room, filled with rolling smoke. This is it. This is the end. My Changsing branch, my frostless leaves. Those were high-grade materials I spent a fortune to get from the Imperial City headquarters. Why did the fire suddenly weaken for no reason? King Yu's expression slightly changed. Among the prescriptions Gookswanchen was about to sell her just now, there seemed to be these two herbs. She hurriedly asked, Master, what rank are the Dilu flower and Wulong grass? Tao Hai looked at King Yu strangely. These are both 4th-rank herbs. You're only a 2nd-rank alchemist. You shouldn't have access to them. Did you perhaps discover some ancient prescription? But I feel that the herbs you mentioned, when combined, should be able to refine a 4th-tier advanced pill. Upon hearing this, King Yu immediately panicked. After a slight hesitation, she still told Tao Hai everything that had happened in the main hall. Tao Hai couldn't help but tap her on the head. I've already warned you many times there are always people better than you. If you keep relying on the title of the #1 alchemy genius of any Yang, arrogant and blind to everything, he is bound to offend a powerful person. At this moment a loud explosion came from Guxuanqing's pill room, followed by a scorching wave of heat rushing towards them. Turning around they saw the pill room collapsing amidst thick smoke. Kunyu couldn't help but be startled. How could his fire be so powerful? At this moment Guxuanqing slowly walked out. This life of yours probably no longer belongs to you. He could be seen tracing two dragon-like patterns with his fingertips on the elixir. They moved across the surface of the pill. That is a second-tier spirit pill with two patterns. Even Tao Hai was seeing it for the first time, his eyes wide with disbelief. It is said that elixirs only produce pill patterns when refined to the extreme. Even a second-tier spirit pill with just one pattern already far surpasses the effectiveness and value of a third-tier spirit pill. Just as master and apprentice were stunned, Gushin had already walked over. Your master is quite the connoisseur. Kunju, unable to bear the humiliation, pointed a knife at her own neck. Gushin, you win. My life? Tao Hai's face showed great alarm, and he quickly formed hand seals. A pillar of fire surged forth, instantly pulling Kinju's blade back. Kinju said unconvincingly, Master, I am willing to bet and accept the loss, no need to ask him. Angry, Tao slapped her. Nonsense, shut up. After scolding King Yu, Tao Hai cupped his fists toward Guxuanqing and said, Young Master Gu, I am Tao Hai, the head of the Pill Hall. My former disciple was ignorant. Before Tao Hai could finish, Guxuanqing asked, The Xuanqing fire control technique, you are a descendant of Tao Yun. In his past life, Tao Yun had helped him. He also taught him the Xuanqing fire control technique as repayment. It was the same technique Tao Hai used just now. He slapped Tao Hai's shoulder with his palm. Tao Yun was also a 9th tier alchemist back in the day. How did you only reach 3rd tier at over 40? Never mind, I once owed your ancestors a favor. Today I will repay it to you. Guxuanda lightly shouted, and a finger landed on Tao Hai's forehead. Immediately Tao Hai forgot to consider Guxuandao's identity. He only felt a complete Xuanqing Yu Huju enter his mind. Tao Hai's eyes were full of surprise. Mental cultivation transmission requires at least the spiritual power level of a 5th order alchemist. Only then is it possible. Just as Kinju was about to speak, Guxuanda had already slapped him. Kunju clutched her swollen cheek, glaring at Guxuchin. You dare hit me. Why wouldn't I dare? I won the bet. I can even kill you. Your master dotes on you doesn't mean everyone has to. If it weren't for my past relationship with your master, you'd be a corpse right now. Seeing this, Tao Hai immediately bowed. Thank you, young Master Gu, for your mercy. At that moment, a crimson light shot up into the sky above Anyang City. It burst into a brilliant firework. Gu family's urgent era. This is the signal the Gu family uses to summon all clan members back to defend the city when their survival is at stake. A signal for all clan members to return and defend. Gu's face changed. He retracted his figure flashed, and he rushed towards the Gu family. Half an hour ago, the Ling family attacked the Gu family. Unfortunately, the Gu family didn't even have one Earth Spirit Realm expert. In just a moment, they were like mere straws and mud dogs. Ling Xiaoshan struck down a child with a single blow. If you don't tell me where Guxuanqing is, I'll destroy your entire clan right now. But just then a cold voice came from the Gu family's main gate. Guxuanqing coldly glanced over. After today, there will be no Ling family left in Anyang City. Feeling the powerful spiritual energy fluctuations from Guxuanqing, Ling Xiaoshan's expression suddenly changed dramatically. He didn't expect this guy to have broken through to the mid-stage of the heavenly spirit realm. At this moment, the traitor from the Gu family also panicked. Who would have thought that the family head would break through a major realm just by stepping out? Before anyone could finish speaking, Guxuanqing casually waved his hand and killed the traitor. Sensing the danger, the Ling family members immediately surrounded him, but Ling Xiaoshan shouted, ordering them all to retreat. I will personally avenge my son. I want you to watch me torture your sister to death tonight. He gripped the hilt of his sword tightly. As his inner energy surged, the blade's light extended several meters. Faced with such a powerful strike, Gushin casually deflected it. Such low-level martial arts skills, daring to make a fool of yourself in front of this lord. His figure suddenly flashed. Then the sword in his hand pierced through the blade aura directly, shot straight towards Ling Xiaoshan's left eye. Ling Xiaoshan immediately tried to defend, but at that moment, the cold light suddenly broke. His Shifen attacked again. At that moment, Guxuanqing lightly lipped and executed the sword disconnection technique. Instantly, Ling Xiaoshan was trapped in a flurry of sword and blade light. Seeing this, a group of people from the Ling family also rushed forward, but their strength was nothing in Guxuanqing's eyes. Amidst the cold light, bursts of blood mist exploded around Guxuanqing. Ling Xiaoshan was so frightened that he immediately wanted to retreat. A cold, indifferent voice suddenly appeared beside his ear. You're too late to leave. As Guxuanqing suddenly raised both arms, countless cold lights became even sharper. The attacks pierced through the bodies of the Ling family members. At that moment, more than 10 martial artists suddenly rushed in from the doorway. The newcomers looked in shock at the sky filled with cold light. It took a moment before they regained their senses. Young Master Gu, I heard that the Gu family is in trouble. We have sent martial artists from the Pill Hall to assist. At this time, Gu Xuanqing was stepping on the heads of many family heads. My family is unfortunate and I apologize for the embarrassment. Tao Hai stared in shock at Gu Xuanqing, who stood on high ground. He never expected that not only was his alchemy extraordinary, but his martial arts mastery was also so astonishing. He immediately ordered for the members of the Gu family to be sent to the Dan Hall for treatment, and he was well aware in his heart that young Master Gu was a remarkable person with hidden talents. He absolutely could not offend him. After everything was handled, Gu Xuanqing couldn't help but ask, "What's the relationship between this Xiao sect and the Xiao sect on Penglai Mountain?" Tao Hai told him, "Do you know that 3,000 years ago, the Xiao martial emperor established the Xiao sect on Penglai Mountain, where the spiritual energy of the Qingyan continent was most abundant, and it became very influential for a time." Gu Xin certainly knew. After all, he had named Xiaoxi's sect at the time. Even the protective sect formation was created by him. It's a pity that 700 years ago, after the martial emperor ascended and achieved enlightenment, he mysteriously disappeared. Xixora sect leaderless grew increasingly weak. Finally, it retreated to the southern wilderness. This is the current Soya sect. Only then did Gu Xin finally understand. Regarding this Sequoia sect in a remote corner of the southern wilderness, he had thought it was merely a coincidence, a namesake. Unexpectedly, they were actually his own disciples and their descendants. Given Xiaoxi's personality, I suppose I've been trying to find a way since my tribulation, searching for my aura. If it weren't for me, his sect wouldn't have fallen to such a state. As master and disciple, I will restore your Sequoia sect to its former glory. Gu Xuan smiled faintly. I remember Lu Shengsha has a younger brother, right? Tao Hai told him that Lu Tao is the only legitimate male heir of the Lu family. He's been running rampant in Anyang City. The Lu family is the head of the 8 great families, so no one dares to provoke them. Gu Xin let out a cold laugh. The head of the 8 great families will soon no longer be. That great-grandson of Mohi is truly blind. He even let the Xiao sect protect the Lu family. That sect needs a good overhaul. Having said that, he immediately turned and walked out. He himself would make the people of Anyang City understand what will be the consequence of offending the Gu family. This is a family that even the royal family dares not provoke. Yet the man stepped on his brother's head to congratulate his father-in-law. Since the Lu family has been protected by the Xiao sect, no one dares challenge them. But Gu Xuanqing, as a son-in-law of the Lu family, actually dared to lay hands on their only son. Before the head of the family could speak, everyone started cursing angrily. The head of the family also thought he would not dare do anything excessive. But in the next moment, Gu Xuanqing actually shattered his son's stanchion with a punch. This sudden scene directly angered my father-in-law. He hurriedly released his spiritual energy to separate the two. But my son had already lost his cultivation and become a useless person. My father-in-law was furious. My daughter abused you. Why did you kill my son? Gu Xin smiled faintly. Can't take it anymore. How did your daughter serve this lord back then? Is there a problem with me destroying your Lu family now? Upon hearing this, his father-in-law flew into a rage. Destroy my Lu family, you have quite the nerve. Even if my Lu family didn't have the protection of the Xiao order, it's not something you, a good-for-nothing, can destroy. Gu Xin shrugged his shoulders. It's a pity precisely because your Lu family possesses the Xiao order, that it must be destroyed today. As he spoke, Gu Xuanqing formed hand seals. The Xiao order suspended above the Lu family suddenly flashed with a crimson red. It then enveloped the entire Lu family. This scene immediately caused everyone's eyes to nearly pop out. What the hell is going on here? Gu Xuanqing can actually control the Xiao order? The Xiao order is known for its own Zenli. More importantly, the Xiao token also contains an attack formation. This is the formation that ancient Xuanqing taught the Xiao emperor back then, facing the Lu family, which is protected by 3 heavenly spirit realm experts. Even though he wanted to take revenge, he didn't have the strength to do so. So ancient Xuanqing immediately came to examine the Xiao token. Although this one is a replica, it still contains a 4th-tier formation that surpasses a spirit-level warrior. At this moment, Lu Sai felt the endless crimson energy. It contained in suffocating, searing heat. The onlooker stared at Gu Xuanqing in disbelief. How did you learn the formation incantation of the free and easy order? Gu Xuanqing didn't pay much attention, his hand changing the hand seals as the heat soared again. Members of the Lu family spontaneously combusted. Amid endless screams, the Lu family members twisted their bodies. As the cries gradually weakened, the Xiao family, after many years, was reduced to ashes in the sea of fire. Looking at everything before him, Lu Sihai's legs couldn't help but weaken. His bottom hit the ground. Gu Xuanqing slowly approached him. The head of the Lu family gives you a piece of advice. In your next life, remember not to mess with the Gu family. Then he threw a punch. Lu Sai instantly met an untimely death. Upon seeing this, the heads of the families all kneeled. From now on, we will follow the ancient family head's lead. Gu Xuanqing wiped the bloodstains from his palm. I'll give you half an hour to raid the Ling and Lu families. If you succeed, I will spare your lives. Just return to the Gu family hall. Gu Xuanqing's second uncle Gu Kaiyuan eagerly came forward to greet him. Reporting to the head of the family, after raiding the Ling and Lu families, a total of 17 spirit stones, 62 second-tier pills, 94 medicinal herbs, and various weapons were found. Also, the 8 major families have requested the head's decision on the tax collection issue in Anyang City. Guxuanshan did not say much. As for the matter of Anyang City, let second uncle and Yuan handle it. He, on the other hand, was heading to the Xiaoyao sect to capture the last remaining fish of the Luo family. We have to clean up our own sect's trash. Guillaume was startled. Brother, why are you suddenly going to the Xiaoyao sect? Gyuk simply smiled faintly. Yuan, you've been unable to cultivate martial arts for years, not because you're naturally incapable. It's because you are a chaotic celestial body. Tai's eyes widened in surprise. Chaotic celestial body, the legendary most suitable physique for cultivation. Martial artists with this kind of constitution, if not activated by the primordial fruit, one of the 9 great spiritual treasures, cannot have spiritual energy flowing through their meridians and cannot cultivate. But once activated, their innate potential will far surpass that of ordinary martial artists. As for my trip to the free and easy sect, if I can find the primordial fruit, I will be able to help you open your meridians quickly, so you can protect yourself in the future. As for the sect's treasure, the primordial tree, he naturally has a way to make them obediently offer it up. Following the information provided by Tao Hai, he quickly found the location of the Xiao sect. This is the Thousand Illusion Spatial Array. It was the protective array he helped the Xiao martial emperor create back then. Within the array lies a vast landscape, a self-contained world. Outside the array, Guxuanshan hid himself in a spatial rift. Guxuanshan is more than familiar with his own creations. He struck a beam of spiritual light into the void. Before him, a large tree immediately transformed into a portal of space. After Guxuanshan entered, everything returned to its original appearance. Looking at the familiar mountain range in the distance, Guxuanshan felt a sense of disconnection from the past. It seems this is the Xiao sect 100 years later. He recalled the scene when he created the sect with his disciples. He couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion. This seed has opened up a small river for you. From now on, the sect will no longer worry about lacking spiritual power. In addition, I have also caught a divine beast to guard the sect. The carefree martial emperor has ascended now, but as a master he has ended up like this. Guxuanshan sighed despite giving the best setup back then. After Xiaoxi disappeared, they can only rely on the sect's protective array. Curled up in a place like this, what a bunch of useless disciples. But he doesn't know that after his fall back then, Emperor Xiao stirred up many forces in search of him. At that moment, a sudden fluctuation of spiritual energy emerged. Guxuanshan discovered that the fluctuation came from an area covered by a second-tier formation in the branch of the outer mountain spirit river. He saw a young girl locked in a fierce battle with a second-tier spirit beast, a Shui Jiao dragon. The fight was intense and unresolved. Although the water mosquito dragon is only a second-tier spirit beast, the girl's set of gale sword appears swift like the wind, but it's hollow and powerless, unable to break through the water mosquito's defense. Seeing this, Guxuanshan immediately intercepted it. Is this the level of disciples from the Xiao sect? What have you done to the sword of departure? Look closely. Without saying a word, his body instantly spiraled into a vortex, charging toward the water Jiao dragon's abdomen. Guide back to its origin. Move the sword with intent. The chase the wind sword moves performed by Guxuanshan are not only as swift as the wind, but each strike is overwhelmingly powerful. At that moment, a fierce aura suddenly emanated from the girl. Guxuanshan did intend to guide the girl. However, he didn't expect that he had only just demonstrated the sword moves before the woman had already grasped the essence. In his past life, he was unable to reach the spirit tier and could only teach his disciples through verbal instructions. But in this life, since he has entered the spirit tier, everything he says and does can transform into the profound meaning of the sword Dao to aid others in their cultivation. Mokanian, who had just opened her eyes, was filled with astonishment. She had been stuck in the late stage of the lesser spirit mirror for a long time, unable to break through. But just now, after a single glance, she directly broke through to the heavenly spirit realm. She suddenly remembered that the sect master had once said, although the Xiao sect has now retreated to the southern wilderness, there are still some reclusive powerful figures within the sect who are in closed-door cultivation. The day they emerge from their seclusion will be the day Xiao sect is reborn in glory. Thinking of this, she immediately kneeled down. Junior Mokanian thanks the senior for the guidance. At this moment, Mokanian was certain the other party must be a reclusive powerhouse from the sect. Guxuanshan said lightly, has the sect recently accepted a disciple named Lu Shengshu? Where is she now? You mean Elder Lu, right? Mokanian instantly understood. This reclusive senior must be here for Elder Lu, the disciple personally chosen by the founding ancestor, who has only just appeared. Guxuanshan was speechless. How did Elder Lu become an elder right after entering the sect? And she's gone to the Hongming blessed land. In that case, let's head to Linjuan Peak first. Mokanian immediately followed closely behind, but she suddenly realized that no matter how hard she tried, the distance between her and Guxuanshan was growing wider. But with his status as a senior, how could he not have a flying spiritual artifact? Yet he was only using the strength of the mid-heavenly spirit realm to run. Could it be that he's trying to teach me his movement technique? Upon thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little touched. Senior, I will definitely not let you down. At this moment, Guxichin felt slightly helpless. Back then, I could leap over a mountain with a single jump and cross a great river in 2 steps. Chasing after Mokanian, this body is slower than a turtle. Sensing Mokanian's speed suddenly increase behind him, Guxin was also startled. This girl's talent is terrifyingly incredible. The warmth in his eyes shows that he has already grasped the essence of the Xingluo step. No, I cannot afford to lose face here. So he no longer held back his spiritual energy and his speed increased again. Upon arriving at Linjuan sect, he had Mokanian wait there. He then casually broke into the restriction and walked in. When he was at the key refining stage, he had taught 10 emperor-level powerhouses. After breaking through, however, he was educated by his ungrateful disciples who did not recognize his greatness. Facing this group of unworthy descendants, Guxuan couldn't help but scold them. It's a good thing that I didn't let this seat be buried in the Linjian Temple underground. This Linjian Temple is made from supreme spirit crystals. Inside, the source of spiritual energy continuously evolves from the heavenly Tao. It was a supreme weapon he gave to the immortal emperor for cultivation back then. Although the spiritual energy has diminished a lot compared to those years, it is still unparalleled in the southern wilderness. If I want to convince all the disciples of the immortal sect in a short time, I must rely. Just as he was concentrating on his meditation, a disciple from the Xiao sect suddenly ran over. Mokianian, seeing his aggressive manner, quickly shielded Guxuchin. The disciple was the first to attack. He's a senior you mentioned. When did a little spirit realm waste become a senior of the Xiao sect? Could it be that you and this man secretly came to the forbidden area for a clandestine affair? Only after we discovered him did he falsely claim to be a senior. The words had barely left his mouth when Nai Yuan felt a flash before his eyes. Then his mouth split right open. Yu Shen's expression was cold. Blind and foolish idiot, you don't need this mouth anymore. Seeing this, everyone felt a little apprehensive. But under Nai Yuan's cowardly lead, the mountain guards charged forward recklessly. Guxuchen took a single step forward. The dozens of disciples around were all scattered by the shockwave. Guxuan smiled faintly. You mountain guardians are quite resolute. In that case, I'll reward you by allowing you to enter the temple and cultivate. Upon hearing this, everyone was stunned. Such a good thing. The next moment, Guxuanshan led the disciples into the inner hall to cultivate. As the spiritual energy surged wildly into Guxuanshan's body, everyone present was left dumbfounded. Is this the spirit river of the Xiao sect? Suddenly his pupils widened sharp. All the disciples suddenly felt as if there was a figure in their minds. They could even clearly sense his entire meridian system. It was operating some kind of martial art formula. Mokianian's heart was also filled with shock. At this moment there were nearly 200 disciples present, yet the senior could actually transmit his cultivation to all of them at once. However, at this moment Nai Yuan took advantage of the chaos to escape and report to his uncles. Senior, I'm afraid you'll be in big trouble soon. At that moment a voice reached everyone's ears. I have broken through from the mid-Kai refining stage to the late heavenly spirit realm. Immediately agreeing voices echoed all around, but suddenly a bolt of tribulation lightning struck from the sky. This breakthrough had actually triggered a heavenly tribulation. The peak of the late heavenly spirit realm? The warrior's accumulation of spiritual energy reaches the limit of the human body. As long as they comprehend a glimpse of the heavenly Tao's profound truths, they can connect with the heavens and gain insight into the mysteries of the universe. But gaining insight into the mysteries of the universe is an act of defying the heavens. That's why it attracts the heavenly tribulation. Guxuanshan could not help but feel immense anger in his heart. With such a strong foundation, they ended up as mere gatekeepers. Are the people of the Xiao sect all blind? Under the protection of Guxuanshan, all the disciples present were brought into the Linjian temple. A grayish aura began to rise in the main hall of the Linjian palace. Occasionally, some unfamiliar characters flickered in and out. Guxuanshan said lightly, although the Linjian temple is not as powerful as it was in its prime, it is still more than enough to block the tribulation thunder. Now focus and calm your minds. Contemplate deeply the heavenly laws of the tribulation lightning extracted by the temple for you. All the disciples present were excited and knelt in front. It's good to have senior experts. Only Guxuanshan quietly pondered in his heart. All my disciples are about to enter the cave heaven realm. If I'm still weak, it would be too embarrassing to say it out loud. At the same time, Ni Yuan arrived with Elder Xi. But when he arrived, I suddenly found that all the disciples present had actually broken through. If only one gatekeeper had broken through, that could be considered a coincidence. But almost all the gatekeepers present have broken through collectively. Thinking of this, Elder Xi suddenly knelt down. Then he slapped Nai Yuan across the face. Open your dog eyes and see clearly. The spiritual energy of the Kanling River is several times stronger than before. You schemed and plotted to lure me here to arrest you. Is it your intention to make me a sinner for all ages? The disciples of my fan ganged up and beat him up. It's all your fault that we missed such a great opportunity. At this moment, Mokianian took out a message talisman, and her face suddenly changed. because the commotion caused by the heavenly tribulation just now was too great. It attracted the Linyan sword sect Wujigong and Xinjiu Pavilion to pay a visit. Mokyanian thought it over and decided to ask Guxuanshan for help. Now these three sects in the Xiao sect are all under the jurisdiction of the Flame sect. Since the martial emperor ascended, the Xiao sect has been in further decline. Every year, the four major sects must pay tribute to the Flame sect. Before Guxuanshan could hear the full story, he was already a little angry. A small unknown sect from the wilderness actually dared to step on his disciples' Xiao sect. What an unfortunate situation at home. But Guxuanshan couldn't be bothered with such trivial matters right now. Having just been reborn, he needed to quickly improve his strength. That small Liuo sect could be easily wiped out once he stepped out. He waved his hand and said, "You handle it yourselves. Nothing's changed, it's the same as before." After receiving the instruction, the two of them withdrew, and Kong asked his junior sister, somewhat puzzled, "What does Senior Gu mean by this?" Mokynian believes she has already figured out the man's thoughts. Senior Gu's meaning is simple. If they behave well when we meet them, then it's fine. If not, then just kill them directly. Meanwhile, the elders of Xinjiu Pavilion in the hall are growing increasingly dissatisfied. Does your Xiao sect have no manners at all? You actually sent disciples to entertain us? Mokynian happened to walk in at this moment. If you wish to present a gift, leave your visiting card and return in 10 days to be received. Hearing this, the Wujigong elder roared, "Presumptuous. Since when did we need to submit visiting cards to visit the Xiao sect? I shall capture you first, then I will reason with Mo-He." Immediately he launched a punch at her. Seeing this, Hen Kong immediately blocked it. A hint of disdain flashed across the Wujigong elder's eyes. "But who gave you the courage to block me?" Just after entering the cave, Hen Kong knew that the opponent was powerful, but Mokynian was right behind him, making it impossible to dodge. He could only channel the heavenly Tao law he had just comprehended and strike with the same punch. Immediately, a pleasant, ethereal sound of the Buddhist chant overshadowed the sound of the punch and thunder, reaching everyone's ears. That was actually the sound of the heavenly Tao. The other two elders in the Great Hall both changed their expressions. The elder of the Wujigong was also sent flying into the door with a single punch. And Kong stared in shock at his own fist, as if he couldn't even believe it himself. The punch that he had just focused on fully defending with had actually killed an elder in the mid-stage of the Cave Heaven realm in an instant. Seeing this, the two elders immediately transformed into shadows, trying to escape, but they were instantly stopped by Mokynian. The next moment, the sound of heavenly Buddhist chanting rang out. The two of them realized that the temple doors had been completely sealed off by countless bursts of energy. Even with the imperial lineage's inheritance and the imperial book safeguarding the world, in reality only 3 to 5 geniuses can comprehend the mysteries of the imperial book in the same era. It's already rare, but if everyone could comprehend the imperial book, how would other factions survive? Yet now they are witnessing a group of people from the Xikoya sect who have comprehended the imperial book. When did the Xikoya sect become so terrifying? Without a word, they immediately knelt on the spot. "We'll present our visiting card now. But since we've already started, how could I let them leave?" Mokynian said coldly, "The visiting card is unnecessary. Leave your heads behind." The two who once swaggered through the Xikoya sect, under the siege of everyone, didn't even make a ripple before their heads were separated from their bodies. After a short while, the two were again before Guxu. "Senior, we've killed those 3 guys as you instructed." Guxun looked at the two calmly. "When did I instruct you to kill them?" They whispered, exchanging glances. Did we misunderstand Senior Gu's meaning? Then Guxuchin sighed softly. "You killed them so impulsively. What if the forces behind them come for revenge? Although it's not to be feared, if they keep causing trouble, it will only disturb my cultivation. But since the matter has already happened, we should quickly focus on our training." The two of them had just walked out of the restriction when they couldn't help but start discussing again. Could it be that we misunderstood the senior's guidance earlier? And Khan slightly nodded. Of course, it's clear that the senior was reminding us, rather than letting them come to us seeking revenge, why don't we take the initiative? He wants us to go directly and annihilate them, eliminating the threat forever. Guxuchin has been complaining since he returned. That one superpower has now fallen into such a state. He quickly broke through to the Cave Heaven realm after being nurtured in the Linjin Divine Palace. But when he came to his senses, the 9-ringing cloud drum of the sect reached his ears. This is the signal used by the Xiao sect to urgently summon all its members in times of great crisis. He recalled how Mokynian killed the elders of the 3 sects. He thought it was an attack from the other 3 sects. But when he arrived at the main hall, his expression immediately darkened. The one distributing the pills in front of him was Elder Chi-Ho from the Xiao sect. He saw the man and couldn't help but curse. "Are you the so-called senior they talk about? Do you have any brains, letting them attack the 3 great sects?" As soon as these words were spoken, Mokynian hurriedly explained, "It's because we lack the skill that we got hurt and embarrassed." Guxuanshan couldn't be bothered to explain. "Indeed, the descendants have embarrassed themselves, disgracefully ruining what I taught you about cultivation. In the end, they've been trampled by such a low-level sect. With that, he pointed out a thread of spiritual energy. Everyone present felt themselves wrapped in the spiritual energy. Immediately after, they suddenly felt no pain at all. Seeing this, Chihu couldn't help but widen his eyes. To treat so many people, even a high-level alchemist working day and night would struggle to prepare the pills in 7 days, but he actually managed to heal nearly 100 people simultaneously. Seeing this, he immediately knelt down and pleaded guilty. My vision was short-sighted, senior. I didn't know of your immense power. I've greatly offended you before. Please forgive me, senior Go. Guksuchin didn't hold it against him. From now on, you should restrain them on my behalf. At this moment, the 3 major sects had already reached the foot of the mountain. Mokianian proudly presented all the treasures and weapons they had collected last time to offer the senior. The table was full of high-grade pills, weapons, and spirit stones, but Guksuchin merely glanced at them before turning his head to look for the Millennium Black Iron, an ancient dragon teeth he had once used as table props, but those items had now been enshrined in the ancestral hall of Kaiyang Peak. He felt utterly speechless. He actually picked up a pile of scrap metal and junk and thought it was treasure. Is it that he doesn't think I'm embarrassed enough? Chaihu was about to tell him that enemies were attacking. Before he could finish speaking, Guksuchin interrupted him. That's just perfect. I'll let them know that they've messed with the wrong person. Meanwhile, the disciples of the 3 major sects gathered at the foot of the mountain to attack the Xiaoya sect. The sect leaders of the 3 major sects swore an oath to block the entrance. Xiang Zhaixing, the leader of the Xinju Pavilion, even boldly declared that his hammer was already itching with thirst, eager to drink their blood. But as soon as he finished speaking, a figure appeared behind him. Who let this dog bark on the Xiao sect's territory? Hearing this, the leader of the land sect was startled. With their cultivation, they hadn't even sensed the slightest aura from this man. Guksuchin merely threw a punch. That bear, Xiaoxing, was struck and fell into a crack in the ground, unable to get out. Guksuchin looked at the unconscious leader of the Xiju sect with a playful expression, truly overestimating oneself. At that moment, King Jianzi immediately unsheathed his sword and struck from behind. But just as their blades met, his Kinyan sword shattered into pieces. I'll spare you because of your age. I give you the chance to choose. Which foot will step into my sect first? Which hand will kill my disciple first? And which eye dares to look down on my Xiao sect? After just a few moves, he was completely unable to fight back. You answered too slowly, so I will decide everything for you. At that moment, Xiang Zhaixing directly unleashed his strongest move, Golden Peak Shockwave. Seeing this, the inorganic palace master hurriedly threw out the flying dragon thunder. Guksuchin smiled faintly. Then he took out the artifact he had just crafted. The 1,000 Illusion Spatial Array, which had been hidden in the spatial rift, suddenly emitted a blinding light. Immediately afterward, numerous spirit swords fell from the sky. Custom-made high-grade weapons silently appeared before everyone. Now you can take it and play with it as you like. The 2 sect masters watched helplessly as Guanchen used their own power to forge weapons for his disciples. They could not tolerate the humiliation and, without saying a word, charged at him. Guksuchin slowly activated the 1,000 illusion killing formation. As soon as the formation was set, all disciples within a 100-mile radius who were not from the Xiaoya sect's main branch began to flee in all directions, because once a rumor is touched, it will be punished by death. Until death do they part. After a moment, he finally found the woman's location. Lu Shengshu, have you finally caught you? Guksuchin's figure flashed, and he quickly gave chase. At this moment, disciples from the other 3 sects were desperately fleeing. By coincidence, they happened to encounter the returnees from the Hongming Sacred Land, the master of Xiao sect and others. Seeing this, everyone immediately surrounded and attacked them. They wanted to take revenge for their master before the killing formation arrived. The people from the Free and Easy sect had no idea what was going on and were tragically hunted down. Lu Shengshu barely escaped thanks to the protection of Elder Tao Kaiyan. This also raised doubts from the sect master of the Free and Easy sect, because Lu Shengshu had occupied the best cultivation spot in the primordial blessed land, but her cultivation speed was still far behind that of some ordinary disciples with average qualifications. In order to help her with her cultivation and overcome the tribulation, the sect has already used nearly 80% of the spirit stones accumulated over the past 10 years. The suspicious sect leader deliberately had her contact the ancestor to rescue everyone. Although Lu Shengshu's heart was clear as a mirror, she had no choice but to pretend and form a hand seal. The so-called ancestor of the Xiao sect, if you're really that powerful, why don't you hurry up and save your foolish disciples? But just then, the sect's 1,000 illusions extermination array actually appeared. Before everyone could react, the enemy sect disciples were instantly annihilated. This scene completely stunned the sect master. He immediately knelt down. It was truly our ancestor who intervened. He helped us eliminate all the enemies. At this moment, Hu Heiquan completely believed Lu Shengshu. He wanted her to communicate with the ancestor. Please guide us on the next course of action. Lu Shengshu was also confused in her heart. Clearly Bao just did nothing earlier, but she could only continue to play along, just as she was at a loss. An attack suddenly rushed toward her. Gu Xuanqing suddenly appeared in front of her. Lu Shengshu, it's been such a long time. Her expression suddenly changed. Gu Xuanqing, what are you doing here? Didn't I ruin your dancing? Gu Xuanqing only gave a cold smile. As long as you haven't forgotten, the woman snorted coldly. You're just the useless husband my family arranged for me, and I've already divorced you. I can't believe you're still holding a grudge. You're colluding with the three major sects to take revenge on our Xiao sect. Hu Hequan's gaze sharpened as he stared at Gu Xuchen. Is what she said the truth? Gu Shin sized him up and down. So you're the current sect master. What a blind fool. He then punched him in the face. I heard your grandmaster instructed you to go to Anyang City, to find a genius to bring back, and you took in such a degenerate as Lu Shengshu. It's taken you this long to break through to the early stage of the Heavenly Palace realm, after entering the Hongming Blessed Land, and you call yourself a genius. You ignore so many geniuses in the Xiao sect, and you let them be mountain guards. You're fit to be sect master. Seeing Gu Xuchen's insolence, Lu Shengshu, her heart filled with joy, coldly shouted, Gu Xuchen, you dare insult the sect master? I won't let you off today. She instantly transformed into a fierce light, flying straight towards Gu Xuchen. As soon as the two figures approached, Lu Shengshu was sent flying backward with a **pi* sound. Gu Xuchen coldly snorted, this is the genius you speak of. The woman looked at him in astonishment. How is this possible? When did his martial arts become so profound? She didn't even see how he made his move. Seeing this, Hu Hequan and several elders quickly surrounded them. Hu Hequan's face was ashen as he roared, dare be so arrogant in my Xiao sect. Today I will teach you a lesson. As the words fell, several flying artifacts suddenly approached from afar. The auras of several cave heaven realm experts swept over. An elder exclaimed, Sect Master, it's not good. Those are the flying artifacts of the three major sects. They've broken in. Etzirakan shouted, prepare to meet the enemy. As the flying artifacts of the three major sects drew near, but they found that it was all filled with people from the Xikoyao sect. Everyone who arrived first bowed to Gu Chain. Then they turned to Hecha Hekin and greeted the sect master and the elders. Hetila's eyes widened. He looked at Henkang and the other mountain guards. Feeling the surging energy emanating from them, he was speechless with astonishment. Mkinai quickly explained, during this time we were fortunate enough to receive guidance from Senior Gu. We have all broken through the cave heaven realm, and there's also the terrifying heavenly thunder tribulation. It was also easily dealt with by the ancient Senior, even though the truth is right before our eyes. The sect master and the elders still can't believe their ears. All of you, dozens of people, have passed through the heavenly thunder tribulation. Hu Hequan once again looked at Gu Xuanqing. His eyes were filled with shock and confusion. Just then Gu Xuchen's imperial voice sounded again. I seem to have heard you say you wanted to teach me a lesson. The people of Xiao sect originally thought that Lu Shengshu was the genius destined by heaven and earth. Gu's arrival completely shattered their perception. At this time, the elders and disciples of the sect gathered in the main hall. Lu Shengshu, whose secret was about to be revealed, he loudly declared he's nothing but Luojia Zhuikshu. Imprisoned by me in the dungeon for 2 years, his dancing also ruined. How could he possibly be a reclusive senior from the Xiao sect? At these words, Mokiani and the others' faces instantly darkened. Although you are a genius chosen by the Grandmaster, you mustn't insult Elder. Before Lu Shengshu could speak, the sectmaster stepped forward. Gu Xuanqing, you dare? How dare you address the Grandmaster so directly? You may have done some good for our Xitoya sect, but now you must go before the Grandmaster's statue and atone for your sins. We'll discuss the rest later. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Gu sighed helplessly. How did someone like you become the sect leader? Then he looked at the statue of the carefree martial god not far away. Let me kneel and apologize. Can he withstand it? As soon as the words fell, the laws of the heavenly Tao surged around his body in an instant. A tremendous pressure. For Sao Kai, Elder Town exclaimed in surprise. Everyone noticed that the statue of the ancestor had actually turned around. It faced Xuanqing. Lu Xingxu burst into laughter. Gu Xuanqing, you're finished. Just now, the ancestor has already transmitted his thoughts to me. You dare to show him disrespect? The entire Xiao sect will immediately execute you. But at that very moment, the statue of the martial emperor actually knelt down towards Gu Xuanqing. Then a voice of heavenly Sanskrit terrified everyone present. Discipled Sao bows to the world-honored one. This scene made everyone think they were dreaming. The great emperor bowed down to the young man. He called him world-honored one? How is this possible? Everyone who had emerged from the primordial chaos widened their eyes. The expression on his face was one of disbelief. At this moment, Gu Xuanqing stood in place like an emperor. His proud voice once again echoed in everyone's ears. Let me ask again, do you think apologizing and kowtowing can make up for this? Seeing this, Hu Hequan immediately kneeled in front of him. It is my fault for lacking insight and offending the ancestor. Answer, please forgive me. Lu Shengshu also sat down in place without a word. I couldn't calm down for a long time. At that moment, the voice of the carefree martial emperor sounded again. Master, I haven't been able to find you for 100 years, and I even misjudged your location in the Holy Realm. Guxuanchen casually waved his hand. Since you have ascended to the Holy Jade, go back. The cross-border celestial laws are not something you can bear right now. As master and disciple, we will meet again in due time. As soon as the words were spoken, a golden light quickly spread across the statue of the martial emperor. 8 golden characters suddenly appeared, shining brightly. Mortal sect disciple, expect as I do. In an instant, the summit of Immortal Peak was filled with kneeling figures. Only Lo Shengshu remained, trembling all over. Terror filled his eyes. Wuxuanchen didn't hold back at all. He slapped him away with one blow. Where is the hallmaster of Xingtang? Immediately a middle-aged man came out. Xingtang Xiaoyu greets our ancestor. Wuxuanchen coldly looked at Lu Shengxiu and said, take him to Xingtang and imprison him for 5 years. Ruin his cultivation before throwing him out of Xiaoyu sect. Lu Shengxiu immediately shouted, Wuxuanchen, dare you treat me this way? I Lu Jia will never let you off. Guxuanchen instantly appeared in front of her. I forgot to tell you your Luo family. All 107 of them were killed by me, leaving only you. What do you think they would say about me not letting you off? Lu Shengxiu instantly collapsed and wept uncontrollably after hearing this. You devil, just kill me with a single sword. Guxuanchen smiled faintly. Kill you? How could I let you off so easily? I'd rather have you live to see how my bones rise to power. I want you to live a life where you can neither live nor die in peace. Yamba Lu Shengxiu was already chained up. A cold lint flashed in Cheng Sao's hand. They cut off Lu Shengxiu's tongue. Grab his hair. Drag him backward as he struggles. Rest assured, I guarantee that these 5 years for him will be longer than a lifetime. At this time, the leader of the Lai Hu sect already knew about the declaration of war between the Xiaoyu sect and the 3 sects. But because of the ancient killing formation, he did not dare to act recklessly. Just when he was planning to wait and see, this guy Guxuanchen actually charged in alone. With a single strike, he wiped out the many disciples of the sect. The Flame sect's clergy, let them die as their name suggests. The sect leader who has lived for nearly 1,000 years. I've never seen someone so unconventional. But the next moment, a great fire swept through the entire sect. Countless disciples perished in the sea of flames. Everyone outside the sect was left dumbfounded. This is the holy sect that has suppressed them for hundreds of years. It was actually destroyed in an instant. Recently their worldview has been completely shattered. Yet the sect leader remained unfazed and said, everyone stay calm. In the future, don't be so surprised by scenes like this when following the ancestor. We wouldn't want to embarrass him. Just like that, the strongest sect in Xian Kingdom, the Jade sect, completely disappeared from this vast tomb overnight. And the fallen and long-forgotten Xiao sect rose up dramatically. With overwhelming strength, they began to dominate. The next morning, Guxuanchen arrived at the Hongming Blessed Land. The Xiao sect has now been reorganized. As long as we obtain the Hongming fruit, we can completely resolve my sister's chaotic heavenly body. Just then, a voice echoed in Guxuanchen's mind. Disciple Xiaomeng greets master. Guxuanchen was a little confused. When did he take on such a disciple? But the little girl suddenly pounced and held him tightly. Has master forgotten? You once taught senior brother Xiao the Tao of Heaven and its profound truths, and little Meng was right there listening. It was only after hundreds of years that I evolved into sentience. I'm the humming tree. But Guxuanchen saw that although he had gained sentience, but I didn't achieve enlightenment. A sudden inspiration struck me. I immediately ordered the summoning of the cave heaven mirror, all the celestial rank dancers above, to come here. After an incense stick's worth of time, the disciples were already waiting again. Guxuanchen casually pointed out a sworn brotherhood. Immediately a towering Linjin temple appeared before them. It suddenly emerged right in front. At this moment, the spiritual energy emitted by the Linjin temple was continuously absorbed by the Hongming technique. At the same time, the spiritual energy emitted by the Hongming technique was nourishing the Linjin divine art, and it seemed as if an inexplicable cycle had been established between the two. Guxuanchen snapped his fingers. Let's begin cultivation, everyone. After a short while, some of the more powerful disciples had already sensed the heavenly thunder tribulation. At that moment, Guxuanchen swept his hand, instantly drawing the heavenly Da law in the primordial number. As the spiritual energy continued to flow, and a young girl from the King Mountain walked out of the laws. Disciple Xiaomenku, thanks master for your great kindness. Then she immediately offered 2 red mangoes for master to enjoy. Guxuanchen didn't refuse. He immediately took 1 red mango and absorbed it into his body. The red mango refined by Lai, his power was even more violent. After a moment, Guxuanchen had already broken through to the early stage of the human yellow realm. He, having obtained the red mango, immediately returned to the Gu family. With the support of the primordial fruit, his sister finally activated her cultivation aptitude. He excitedly hugged Guxuanchen. Seeing this, Xiaoming also threw herself on him. Tao on the side couldn't help but widen her eyes. I didn't expect this big brother to actually subdue the Hongming tree, but what surprised him even more was that Xuanchen, in just a few months, had actually subdued the powerful Siao sect. Watching the big shots kneel before Gu Xuanchen, he hurriedly tried to recall if he had committed any offenses before his big brother, and while feeling happy, a sudden shadow of sadness crossed Gu Yuan's face. Brother, if only father could see the Gu family's rise, how wonderful it would be. A flash of suspicion crossed Gu Xuanchen's eyes. He immediately called his second uncle out. When my father left, did he ever say where he went? In his memory, his host, though of ordinary talent, had a father, Gu Kanhua, who always showed him utmost care. He was the first to oppose his marriage into the Lua family, but ultimately he couldn't go against the several elders, so he left in a huff. Wen Yan, his second uncle, sighed lightly. Things have come to this. This matter shouldn't be kept from you any longer. When you married into the Lu family, your father didn't leave in a huff. He left to save you. It all starts with your mother. Your mother is from the Long family of Wanguzhou. After she gave birth to Yu Hang, she was taken back by her clan. Gu Xuanchen, to find his father, came alone to Wanguzhou. He carried a jade pendant left by his father, although he could roughly deduce his father's area of activity, but due to the limitations of his realm, he still couldn't accurately determine the location. Entering the Eternal Continent, he activated the Celestial Star of Healing. He observed each passer, and as long as they had contact with his father in the past 2 years, he could sense his father's aura under the gaze of his spiritual eye. After observing for a moment, suddenly 2 girls walked past him. Gu Xuanchen's eyes lit up instantly. These 2 girls actually had his father's scent on them. Though faint, it indicated that they had been in contact within at least the past year. Watching them enter a restaurant, Gu Xuanchen followed. He didn't approach them rashly. Instead, she picked some chives and sat down on the spirit pearl. He originally wanted to use his long-range perception to listen in on their conversation, but the next second, he realized the 2 women weren't speaking at all. They weren't even eating. They were just drinking like crazy. The onlookers couldn't help but start gossiping. This graceful woman is the wife of the eldest son of the renowned alchemy family, the Qi family Yan. I hear that recently the Han families, the talented young Master Han has his eye on her. He's planning to propose marriage soon, but the woman absolutely refuses this marriage. Forced by his family, he can only come here to drown his sorrows. Just as he was drinking merrily, he suddenly caught sight of Gu. After exchanging a glance, the woman shyly turned her head away, but immediately afterwards she boldly picked up her wine cup, stood up and walked towards Gu Xuanchen. Sir, aren't you feeling lonely drinking alone? How about we drink together? Gu Xuanchen smiled faintly and invited her to sit down. He had been wondering how to strike up a conversation. I didn't expect the woman to come to me on her own. The wife was quite straightforward. She came right to the point and said, Young man, you look unfamiliar. Could you be from out of town? I wonder what brings you to Wangzhou. Gu Xuanchen did not hide anything and told her. He was here to search for his relatives. He then took out his father's portrait. I wonder if you 2 young ladies have ever seen this person. Looking a vivid portrait. The 2 young ladies' eyes instantly lit up. Miss, isn't this from the ancient kingdom? Our young miss once saved his life. Back then Uncle Gu entered the One Gu continent and was seriously injured, collapsing by the roadside. It was our young miss who brought him to the Q family for treatment and saved him. Later, Grandpa found out that he was actually the son-in-law of the Long family, so he sent him to the Long family. But after that, he was never seen coming out again. However, there were rumors from the outside world. It seems that he was placed under house arrest by the Long family. Seeing this, Kuzian quickly interrupted him. Sire, don't talk nonsense. These words? Gu Xuanchen generally understood the ins and outs of the matter. Then I would trouble the 2 of you to guide me to the Long family's residence. But his wife Xian subconsciously stopped him. If you rashly go, you might end up like your father. Able to enter but unable to leave, Gu Xuanchen said calmly. You needn't worry about that. This matter has its own solution. The maid couldn't help but laugh. Young master, don't be foolish. This is One Go. You probably don't know the strength of the Long family. The Long family stands firm in One Gojo with righteousness. They have 3 5th-level array masters, and many void connection experts stationed here as well. His wife Yan also spoke slowly. Young master, there's no need to rush. Rather than rashly barging into the Long family, wouldn't it be better to find a way to lure your father out? I do wait. But I don't know if young Master Gu is willing to make a sacrifice. The woman slowly leaned in. How about young master marrying into my Kai family? I can help you rescue your father. But what is the reason for this, Gu Xuanchen? You're just a young girl in your 20s. Are you sure you want to sleep with a guy who has lived for 100,000 years? Kuzian looked at him and, seeing his reluctance, continued. With a Kai family status in Wangzhou, if you and I become the Qinglong couple, we will surely be present. At that time, you'll naturally know Gubo's whereabouts. That's a good idea. Gu Xuanchen doesn't need to. Anyone can't stop what he intends to do. Just as he was about to leave, Kuzian immediately gave a signal to her maid. The maid quickly ran over and tightly hugged Gu Xuanchen's thigh. Young Master Gu, how could you be so heartless? The young lady saved your father's life. No matter what, you still owe us a debt of gratitude. A man of integrity standing between heaven and earth. Shouldn't he be grateful for kindness received? Before Guanchen could speak, the woman was already weeping uncontrollably. To repay kindness with resentment? What's the difference between you and a villain? Even if Guanchen lived for 10,000 years, he had never seen such a shameless person. She couldn't help but start discussing it. Guanchen felt speechless inside. With a wave of his hand, he immediately tied up the 7 little fish. But even so, the woman still wouldn't stop complaining. Back when she flattened the entire blazing fire set in, she didn't even raise an eyebrow. But now facing this moral coercion, she really felt a bit helpless. To be able to entrust such an esteemed and respectful teacher with the mansion, his character is undoubtedly impeccable. Stop arguing, I've already promised you. Soon the 3 of them boarded the carriage back to the Ki family home. His wife was the first to break the awkward silence. Young Master Gu, I'm sorry. I just did not want to marry that man. I had no choice but to take this drastic measure. You're an outsider, you wouldn't think of this clever plan. Then you'll be able to contact the Long family, and I can escape the Lionian. It's a win-win situation. After it's done, you can leave Wangzhou with Gu Bo. Even if the Han family finds out the truth, they value their lineage. They definitely wouldn't marry me again. Guxuan asked him in return. To ensure the success of this marriage arrangement, the maid suggested that he fabricate an identity, no less impressive than that of Master Han Mo. Since you are from Xian Kingdom, how about pretend and be the young sect master of the Xiao sect? Whether it's your accent, or questions about the local customs there, you not slip up. Upon hearing this, Guxuanshan couldn't help but feel both amused and helpless. Are you sure you want me to impersonate like this? The maid, who did not understand Guxuanshan's meaning, nodded. At your being able to cultivate to such a level in Xian Kingdom is considered extraordinary talent. Although the Xiao sect has declined in recent years, it is still the heir of an imperial sect. I heard not long ago that they rose to power rapidly. But as long as the young lady insists that she will only marry you, the family definitely won't dare to oppose it too much. Guxuanshan, who owes a debt of gratitude, now has no choice but to force himself to agree. In a moment, the carriage has already stopped in front of their door. When Qizian stepped out of the carriage, a young man with a smile eagerly walked up to her. This person is none other than Han Mo, the young master of the Han family. But when he turned and saw Guxuanshan stepping out of the carriage, his expression instantly darkened. His wife Xian ignored him and walked straight toward the gate. Han Mo chased after her, asking, "What kind of man could possibly ride in the same carriage as you?" When his wife Yan saw her father coming out, she immediately called out happily, "Father, this is the daughter of Guxuanshan, the young master of the Xiao sect. She wants him to take charge in the future." As soon as the words were spoken, her father trembled in shock. The elderly man hurriedly bowed and saluted. Yan introduced Guxuanshan's identity. Her father quickly returned the salutation. Because the Xiao sect rose to prominence overnight, he naturally had his own informants. But for this suddenly emerging young sect master, Kyango still had some doubts. He asked cautiously, "How many people from your sect have arrived this time? What is the significance of the meeting in Guangzhou?" Guxuanshan replied calmly, telling him there was only one person. The sect leader and the others are still handling the aftermath, dealing with the elimination of the Blazing Fire sect. As for me, I only came here to broaden my horizons. The woman watched as Guxuanshan effortlessly told lies. She secretly felt pleased. In this statement, only made Kihanga more certain of his identity. He observed Guxuan's impressive demeanor and speech. He can't possibly be an unknown person, especially since my daughter said he's now the rising young master of the Xiao sect, who would dare impersonate someone with such a status. I must not be negligent. Seeing that the situation was getting worse, Henmu immediately stepped forward. "Uncle Kai, you promised me the marriage with Xian." Kanga knew very well that the Han family could never be compared to the Xianio sect. His change of expression was simply astonishing. "I've always cherished my daughter. If I had known that she had someone she loved, I would never have agreed to this marriage." Hemo knew very well the power of the Xianio sect, but he didn't want to give up on this beauty he had just obtained, so he prepared to duel in the style of a dancer. Whoever wins in the end will marry the woman. Guxuanshan glanced at this pure-hearted warrior, utterly speechless. 5 days later, the Qi family will prepare the wedding. The winner will marry Xian. The two agreed to determine the outcome in 5 days. It's a fight to the death. Guxuanshan's identity remains unknown. Now Qiangu can use Hanmo to test the authenticity, to verify the truth. If he can defeat Hanmo despite their difference in rank, then even if his identity is fake, he'll still be qualified to be my son-in-law. Things have come to this point. Qizian couldn't help but feel a headache. Xiaoyu went straight to Guxuanshan. "I said, big brother, do you really think of yourself as the young master of the Xiao sect?" Guxuanshan took a sip of tea indifferently. "If I lean out, Won't that ruin the reputation of the Xiao sect? Don't worry, this kind of insignificant pest isn't worth my attention. Seeing Guxuanshan's arrogant demeanor, the maid was completely stunned. Hemona possesses terrifying strength at the Ruoxu realm. Even if your strength is considerable in Xian Kingdom, you will only be defeated in Wangu Continent. Apart from the Xiao sect, whether it's martial arts, techniques, or rare treasures, they are all far inferior to ours. If you do not believe me, try sparring with me. Guxuanshan knew that if he did not reveal some strength, Qi Ziyan definitely won't be at ease either. If you want to try, then try. The three of them quickly arrived at an open area. The maid said with great determination, "Today I must show you what a high-level weapon is." As her words fell, her arms filled with spiritual energy. Then she raised both hands. Immediately countless swampy shadows materialized. With the speed of lightning, they rapidly closed in on Guxuanshan. His wife was just about to remind the maid not to harm young Master Gu. But before she could finish speaking, she saw Guxuanshan's suddenly accelerating arm. The next second, it pierced through countless swampy shadows. The strands of hair caught in Kaixiao's throat. Kaixi's eyes wide. He couldn't believe it at all. He was defeated by a dancer's instrument from a small place like Xianbo, and it was a quick defeat. After testing, Guxuanshan instantly recognized the woman's martial arts. This is actually his seventh disciple's nine heavens divine skill, Qin Gangju. Yuki family cultivators practice Qin Gangju. Has no one ever lived past 500 years in the Qi family? As soon as these words were spoken, the two women looked at Guxuanshan in horror. Because this is the Qi family's forbidden secret, it is absolutely impossible for outsiders to know, and the cultivation of Qin Gangju, this technique, can only be practiced by those with Qi family bloodlines. How did you know? Guxuanshan did not answer the two foolish girls. He gradually fell into deep thought. Who would have thought it would be in such a way that he would meet the descendants of his own disciple? Thinking back to tens of thousands of years ago, each time Sai cultivated the Tiangangju, he needed to be by her side to protect her. Because of the flaw in Qin Gangju, a moment of carelessness could lead her to go astray. He repeatedly warned her not to continue practicing, but she was always stubborn. She wanted to help him refine the elixir to break the seal. Selfish. How could he not understand her unwavering loyalty to him? Guxuanshan gazed at the girl so incredibly similar to Xiao Qi. He slowly returned to reality. To think that I, an old fellow who's lived for tens of thousands of years, almost nearly made a fool of myself and had a false reconciliation with my disciple's descendant. It's a complete mess of generations. Now that things have come to this, I can only settle the debt and let it be. Guxuanshan brought the woman into the single room. The two women did not know what he was going to do. They watched as Guxuanshan's hands continuously shifted, performing an unprecedented single gesture. None of them dared to make a sound. With a loud bang, over 100 pills shot into the sky. They stared at the pills floating in midair. They were completely dumbfounded. This is actually a 4-pattern spirit pill, and he managed to refine so many at once. When the ancestor of the Qi family refined a single 4-pattern spirit pill, he was recognized as the top alchemist in Wanguzhou. Guxuanshan has refined over 100 at once. What does that mean? His wife Yan immediately pulled her maid and kneeled on the ground. My wife Junior is foolish and disrespectful. She has offended you, Senior. Please forgive her. Guxuanshan, unwilling to explain further, directly produced 2 awakening wheat pills. Have him take them first. Then he gathered his spiritual energy, and when the medicine's effects were nearly complete, struck the woman with a palm strike. In an instant, the two felt a surge of intense heat. It spreads from the lower abdomen to the entire body. Both women's faces are exceptionally flushed. They seem to have the sensation of having taken a euphoric pill, but after sensing the immense energy fluctuations within their bodies, they realize that Guxuanshan is protecting them. Guxuanshan tells them that their cultivation method is wrong. If they continue, it will only damage their foundation. I'm now repairing your meridians. By how? Then they cultivated again using the optimized methods from this manual. After a night of cultivation, 1 man and 2 women, the 2 women simultaneously broke through. Guxuanshan gave them the remaining pills. These awakening pills, take them and give them to the clansmen who have cultivated the Tiangangju. Then cultivate using the techniques I just taught you. Everything will be fine. His wife Yan immediately found her father. After he recounted the events, her father's expression was unusually grave. This had been a persistent problem plaguing their family for over 1,000 years, and now it was in the hands of a young man who had easily solved it. Moreover, according to what the woman said, that alchemy technique is absolutely unmatched, a singular genius. Luckily, he didn't act disrespectfully towards Guxuanshan back then. Kyango quickly calmed himself and immediately issued an order for all his family members to refine this pill immediately and begin cultivating. Then he looked at his daughter Ziyan with great excitement. You truly did a great service for the Kai family this time. Tell father how you met this young master Gu. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, my wife could only recount the events in their entirety. What, you were just acting? The golden son-in-law, so hard-won, is gone just like that. Kyango flew into a rage on the spot, but he quickly calmed down. We can't guess why Elder Gu would do this. From now on, you must pretend you know nothing. Just follow your previous agreement. mutated Luden, will allow my key family to reach the top position in the one Guzzo. The rest goes without saying. He wants to play a game, we must play along until he's satisfied. Xi Zitang quickly asked about the matter. Xi Hong glared at his daughter. What's there to think so much about? If Eldergu really wants to marry you, it must be because our key family has accumulated great merit in our ancestors' lives. Kuizian did have some feelings for Guswanchin, but she still disliked this kind of relationship based on mutual benefit. 5 days in a flash, Kai Hongo was already waiting at the door, awaiting the arrival of the guests. The Han family arrived first. Hemu greeted her upon seeing her, but the head of the Han family scolded him, saying they were soon to be family. Call me father-in-law. This sudden, the voice of the father-in-law arriving, caused Kai Hongo to break out in a cold sweat. If the senior from ancient times knew about this, it would be disastrous. At this moment old Master Hen looked at Kai Hongo in surprise. Kui family head, you actually broke through to the anti-time mirror. It was a stroke of luck, a moment of fortune. Kai Hongo quickly waved his hand politely. He had just sent the Han family in moments ago. The Long family followed closely behind. This man is Long Youngi, the head of the Long family. Right behind him are Guk Swanchin's parents. Invited to attend, Long Xinian kept looking around. Gukao sighed deeply. It might just be someone with the same name. I know Chener's character best. He wouldn't make such a big fuss. What's more, his martial arts skills are really mediocre. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the man in front. That's right. You're useless. Doesn't even qualify to die on this stage. Long Sinang's eyes dark, and she angrily shouted, Long Bing, don't be disrespectful to your fourth uncle. But the man did not take his words to heart. Although the Long family spared his life at your pleading, what right does such a useless person have to be my uncle? If it weren't for the fact that the head of the Qi family has a past with him, he'd probably still be locked in the dungeon, living like a dog. Just as the man was speaking with great satisfaction, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck the sky, and struck him directly. They saw Guk Swanchin standing in front of the Long family. The crackling force of lightning in his hand was enough to send chills down their spines. Seeing their son, they were first stunned, and then quickly rushed forward. Chen, or is it really you? You escaped from Lua. Seeing their father, they were speechless. Guk Swanchin smiled faintly. The matters at home have already been resolved. I came this time specifically to take you all back. At this moment Long Xiniang slowly walked over. She looked at Guk Swanchin, tears rolling down her face, just as she wanted to reach out and embrace her son. Guk Swanchin stopped her right there. My mother died while giving birth to my sister. Seeing Long Xinian's face full of self-blame, Wukanawa could no longer hold back and spoke out. Chener, you really misunderstood your mother. Your mother was originally the top talent in Longjia town. It was Longjia who threatened her with your life and forced her to return. For all these years, your mother endured everything to protect you, until your father found her and she finally negotiated terms with Longjia. If he breaks through the 5th tier formation within a year, the Long family will send someone to rescue you. Your mother, for your sake, has been desperately cultivating during this time. She's endured a lot of hardship. Guk Swanchin felt a bit awkward after hearing this. Uncle Sai did not give me such a detailed explanation back then. Let the past stay in the past. Your parents, Yuhan, have been thinking about you. Just then, a terrifying presence suddenly attacked from behind. You dare injure my Binger. Guk Swanchin, after sensing the old guy's underhanded sneak attack, he did not even look back. He casually drew his sword and blocked the terrifying strike. Immediately he retaliated with a palm strike, almost killing the family head outright. Guk Swanchin didn't care who you were. Dare to lay a hand on me? I'll kill you directly. Just as he was about to kill the man, Long Xinian quickly shielded him from behind. Second brother, please show mercy. Mice is also the Long family. But at this moment, Long Youngi didn't care about these things. A son-in-law doesn't deserve to enter the gates of my Long family. Although he said this, but in his heart, he was shocked by the terrifying power Guk Swanchin had just unleashed. Before everyone, his son in front of everyone, I almost got killed by this useless order. Even if he can't win, he shouldn't just give up. You little brat, do you know who you're up against? He wants to use his family as a shield, but just then, a loud voice suddenly rang out from the sky. Young Master Gu, the competition is about to begin. Zian is still waiting for you. This is Qi family's head. Although he outwardly appears calm, inwardly he's incredibly panicked. If this senior truly causes trouble, I'm afraid the entire Wangzhou will be thrown into chaos. He deeply understands this man's suffering. Therefore, he quickly turned to Long Young and smiled, head of the Long family. This young master must not be harmed. Why don't you sell me a favor for someone? Once these words were spoken, the Dragon family head immediately understood everything. So was you, kid, who dared to challenge the Han family. With Hin Jiayu standing on the same side, what is there to fear? At this moment, his seriously injured son suddenly let out a loud groan. He couldn't care about anything else. He just followed the steps as if giving the family head a favor. Jin Hongul looked at Long Young like an idiot. He glanced at Long Young like he was a fool. Am I giving you face? I'm giving old Master Gu face. Meanwhile, the onlookers below the ring had been waiting for a long time, But after learning Guxuanshan's true identity, their expressions turned strange. So he's the illegitimate son of the Long family, and he was pretending to be the young master of the Xiaoya sect. After Mo learned this, even the initial concerns vanished. I didn't expect that after your identity was exposed, you would still dare to stand here. You're really a man of courage. But today I'll make you realize, what will the consequence be for offending me? As he spoke, he was already charging directly toward Guxuanshan. Guxuanshan, who had just reunited with his parents, had no time to waste talking to Han Mo. He only said one sentence, "I'm in a hurry," and then surprisingly jumped off the stage. The crowd burst into laughter at the sight. He had established a life and death contract in Wang Prefecture. Anyone who dares to escape will be killed. But at that moment, unexpectedly, a bloody gash appeared on Han Mo's head. Then, under the shocked gaze of everyone, he fell straight down. How's this possible? An uproar erupted throughout the hall, but the smile on old Master Han's face hadn't even begun to bloom. Figure flashed onto the dueling stage. Han Mo was already lifeless. I'm afraid even a god couldn't save him. Even Kai Hongo, who knew Guxuanshan's capabilities beforehand, was incredibly shocked. Even he couldn't see how Guxuanshan made his move. At this moment, Guxuanshan said indifferently, "Next, it's time for the next one." When he looked toward the Dragon Clan leader, the Dragon Clan leader was so frightened he nearly soiled himself, but as the clan leader he couldn't lose face. Without skipping a beat, he started laughing heartily. "As expected of a fine young man with the bloodline of my Dragon Clan, given your performance today, I have decided to make you a member of the Long family. They're all my disciples." He wants to force his daughter into a marriage for the benefit of the family, but the man his daughter unexpectedly brought back turned out to be someone even his ancestors could only bow down to. Yet Longji only saw Guxuanshan's talent, not knowing how terrifying he really is. Long Sainang heard that Urge agreed to let his son join the family. Extremely happy, Guxuanshan merely glanced at him indifferently. "When did I ever say I would take you in as a member of the Long family? Simply a fool's dream." Upon hearing this, the head of the Long family's face turned green, but Long Sainang quickly pulled her son and said, "Foolish child, you kill him without the Long family's protection, you'll be in great danger." The head of the Long family also warned him, it is normal for a young man to have talent and pride, but if he fails to recognize the situation, he won't even be able to pass this challenge. Meanwhile, Old Master Han, full of killing intent, had already surrounded him with the Han family. The head of the Long family smiled sinisterly. "Kneel down and acknowledge your ancestors now, before it's too late. Otherwise you'll suffer the consequences." As parents, they also tried to dissuade him, but Guxuanshan remained unmoved. Just these few people, how ridiculous. But at that moment, Kaongo stepped forward. Han Mo and Gu Gongzi had already made a life or death pact. This is not following the rules, is it? Old Master had never expected the Qi family would get involved in this matter. According to the agreement, he is the son-in-law of the Qi family. How could I not intervene in his affairs? Kahana. And then his terrifying pressure filled the entire venue. With the Qi family here, no one can touch young Master Gu. His words carried an endless threat. Everyone present was stunned when he spoke. Guxuanshan does have some talent, but the Qi family has only known him for a few days. Is it worth it to tear apart their relationship with the Han family like this? At this point, the Han family also had no way out. Otherwise, they would have no face to stay in Wangzhou. At the same time, Old Master Han was sure the Qi family couldn't back down either. He is truly going all out for Guxuanshan. But he doesn't know that this opportunity to show himself wasn't wasted by Ka. The Qi family even feels somewhat grateful for Old Master Han's cooperation. At this time, several elders of the Qi family stepped out one after another. Each of them was a genuine Void Realm powerhouse. Suddenly, so many Void Realm powerhouses appeared, causing everyone's expressions to change dramatically. What on earth is going on? Briefly, everyone from the Qi family has actually broken through the Xu stage. Seeing the Han family members behind him showing signs of retreat, Eldarin could only steady his troops. "Kill Guxuanshan and I'll reward you handsomely." But before the two sides could engage in battle, several figures of terrifying power suddenly appeared in the sky. I am also the young master of the Xiao sect. A Miran family easily manipulated. Several incredibly powerful experts protected Guxuanshan in the center. This scene directly scared the Dragon family patriarch Witless. Just 5 days, they watched helplessly as their ancestor was entangled by a Qi family maid. Mokianian wanted to intervene, but was stopped by the sect master. Men understand men the best. They believe that even if the ancestor's cultivation is high, he is still a man. Maybe he's currently pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, enjoying himself. As expected, a few days, they found out that the ancestor had taken the form of the young master of the free and unfettered sect, and was about to marry the eldest daughter of the Qi family. Although they didn't understand what the ancestor meant, they naturally didn't dare to expose it. "Young master, we are late in protecting you. Please forgive us." Guxuanshan waved his hand. "You're just in time. These insignificant characters are up to you. Handle them cleanly, and don't dirty the Qi family's courtyard." As soon as he finished speaking, Sai Zunzong appeared. He couldn't wait to grab a knife and walk towards the Han family. In the face of absolute power, everything is in vain. In an instant, the entire Han family was slaughtered. This scene immediately scared the dragon family head into pulling out of the deal. The number one family in Wangzhou. The Han family couldn't even last an hour. They were all slaughtered. At that moment, that terrifying voice rang out again. Have you watched enough of the show? Can we begin between us now? At this moment, his mother suddenly stepped forward. After all, no matter what, the head of the Long family is still your nominal second uncle. She naturally didn't want her son to carry the stigma of being related by blood for his whole life and be criticized by others. Such a thing is nothing to Guxuanshan. He wouldn't take it to heart at all, but the feeling of being protected by a loved one is something he has never experienced in his tens of thousands of years. Thinking of this, he turned to look at the head of the Long family. For the sake of my mother, I will spare you from death. My mother no longer wishes to be part of the Long family. If the Long family dares to bother him again, it will be like this sword. They will see that sword shatter before their eyes. Everyone in the Long family was filled with fear. This man kills without blinking. He's a devil who annihilates entire families without hesitation. Who dares to provoke him? Zhou Guxuanshan left without looking back. After he left, I didn't expect Long Bing to have the guts to challenge his own father. Are we just going to let them off like this? The Long family has always been a dominant force. When have they ever been humiliated like this? But we can't afford to provoke Guxuanshan and the others. For the sake of face, the head of the Long family has no choice but to bring the old master out of retirement for a discussion. But what he doesn't know is, when Guxuanshan first arrived in Wangu Continent, I then met an old man and a little girl. That old man was Long Qingvi, the patriarch of the Long family. Although they were strangers, the formation Guxuanshan had set up during his cultivation greatly surprised the patriarch. But at that time, the patriarch secretly regarded Guxuanshan as a senior. He wanted to ask you for advice. Guxuanshan at that time was looking for his parents. After a few polite words, he turned and left. To this day, neither of them knows the other's identity. I wonder what the scene will be like when they meet again after the Dragon family incident. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Qi family had already invited Guxuanshan's parents to the main hall. Gukano immediately stepped forward and cupped his fists in gratitude. Thank you, Master Qi, for your righteous intervention. This post startled old Master Kai quite a bit. He quickly helped him up. You seriously injured? We are all family, there's no need to be so formal. I've already asked Zion to prepare the wedding. If there are no issues, we can begin today. Guxuanshan was completely stunned by these words. Kaiongo, that old fox, however, couldn't wait for it to happen faster. Such a powerful family, he had to quickly seize the opportunity to be able to form an alliance with the Qi family. Guxuanshan's parents were overjoyed. They hurriedly urged their son to quickly change into his wedding attire. Moments later, the Qi family had swiftly prepared the venue, and his wife Yan, wearing her wedding dress, strode over. But he knew that Ziba had no right to refuse. Not even a single person in the entire Qi family dared to speak to Guxuanshan. Looking at the elegant and handsome man in front of him, his wife Yansin felt her heart flutter uncontrollably. Soon, the two of them stood at the center of the hall. Guxuanshan whispered to him, "Do you really want to clarify this?" According to Guxuanshan's meaning, since Hanmo has already been dealt with, then this wedding will have to be called off with some excuse. But once things have reached this point, no one can undo it. Unless Guxuanshan himself refuses, who would dare speak up? At this point, he could only grit his teeth and say, "You promised to repay the favor? Could it be that you're a person who breaks their word? If I don't marry you today, then I will still marry someone else in the future. I just want to pursue responsibility. In the end, I have to find someone to deceive my healing. Please, since you're acting, then do it properly." Upon hearing this, Guxuanshan agreed immediately. Then the wedding ceremony proceeded as usual, worshipping heaven and earth, then bowing to parents. The couple bowed to each other and entered the bridal chamber. In the evening, the two awkwardly sat at the edge of the bed. The wife's small face blushed with a hint of crimson at this moment. She didn't know what to do next. She remembered what the maid had told her, how to win over Guing in one fell swoop. She made up her mind to push forward with determination. Just be more proactive and you will definitely succeed. But before she could do anything, Guxuanshan took the initiative and moved closer. Following the flow, Yen lay down. This old fellow, who had lived for 100,000 years, had actually entered the bridal chamber with his disciple's descendant. Although the woman had some reservations in her heart, she dared not utter a single word of dissent. If she accidentally displeased the man, her entire family would likely be annihilated. Men are ultimately still men. He mustered up his courage and wanted to do what should be done in the bridal chamber. But just then, Guxuanshan told him that his physique was indeed good, but his eyes had become much more haggard. Wen Yanqian immediately felt a bit embarrassed. Before he could react, his whole body froze. Earlier, this technique was taught to you, not for you to exhaust your body practicing it. Makes waste. Only steady progress is the foundation, Guxuanshan said as he pushed towards his shoulder and neck with a palm. Endure it. I'll train you well tonight. This move completely stunned his wife, Ziyan. Could Guxuanshan really be a warrior? Occasional sounds from inside the room made the maidservant outside blush. As expected of Miss, she got Yunoi so quickly. The next morning, the couple had just opened the door and stepped out, when a crowd of onlookers had been waiting for a long time. Seeing this, the wife's face turned red, and she quickly went to serve tea to her mother. Elder Shu also developed a curious mind. It must have been Senior Gu who helped him cultivate last night, using a double rest method. No wonder he's still so shy and just got up now. After breakfast. Fu, what's wrong with you, kid? On your wedding night, you did not even think to contact the girl. How come you're just getting up at this hour? My father and I want to have a grandchild, but we also need to cherish the girl's body. Guxuancha felt somewhat helpless. He was only helping his wife Yan with her cultivation last night, but he didn't expect her body to be so weak. Don't worry, mother. I will be careful to control the frequency tonight. Long Xinian glared at her son angrily. Still controlling the frequency. Are you the lead bull? We can't sleep together these days. You need to let her body recover first. From yesterday's interaction, Guxuancha could tell that the relationship between his mother and the Long family was a bit delicate. At this, Long Xinian sighed softly. Because he was born to a father and a maidservant, he had no standing in the Long family. Had it not been for his innate talent for the martial path, he would have been kicked out long ago. At the age of 15, he advanced to a 4th stage array master. By unintentionally deciphering the Long family's treasure map, he caused a reaction in the sealed vault. This is what finally drew their attention. This treasure map was accidentally obtained by the ancestors of the Long family. It is said to contain a large number of divine weapons and sharp tools. It also holds countless rare treasures with cultivation properties. As a result, many people have tried to decipher it. The Long family members speculate that maybe after I advance to a 5th tier formation master, I may be able to unlock it. That's why your father has been using you to threaten me. Hearing his mother's words, Guxuanchen gave a faint smile. I'll visit the Long family in a few days. Meanwhile, the old master of the Long family was in a secret room, leading everyone to contemplate stillness. Despite receiving guidance from a master not long ago, he had already advanced to the 5th rank of mage, yet it was still not enough. Long Yanni silently speculated. It seems, only Sainan can unlock the mystery. You few come with me, let's go bully Kuren again, with the old master here. That young Gu fellow, however skilled, won't dare act recklessly. But they hadn't gone 2 steps, when a servant came running, covered in blood. That's bad. Guxuanchen. He's broken through our Long family's protective formation and is inside. Before the words even finished, Guxuanchen was already standing before him. So this is the Long family of one Guzzo? The strongest formation you take pride in. It's utterly useless. Seeing this, the prominent figures of the Long family were also shocked. Without a word, he charged towards Guxuanchen. The next second, he found himself uncontrollably kneeling down. Under that powerful pressure, he was completely immobile. He could only obediently kneel before Guxuanchen. You must listen to me kneeling. The terrifying power of lightning emanating from Guxuanchen. Outrageous. The old man never expected that this young man was the mysterious expert who had guided him that day. He had been about to attack, but suddenly sheathed his sword behind his back. Meanwhile, the dragon clan head roared, "Father, quickly avenge." As the head of the family, he forced me to kneel publicly. What an unbearable humiliation. But old Master Qi ignored him completely. Instead, he clasped his hands together. He knelt directly before Guxuanchen. Disciple Long Qinjin greets the master. This scene completely stunned the Long family, and the head of the Long family looked like he'd seen a ghost. Old master? Could he be the master you mentioned? His words were immediately dismissed by the old man. Be careful not to upset someone powerful. Seeing the elder, Guxuanchen was also a bit surprised. I did not expect the world to be so small. The old man said excitedly, when you left behind an array mechanism. After contemplating it for a while, I have already broken through to the 5th level array master. Watching his father kneel for so long, and continuously acting like a sycophant, Long Yanggi finally couldn't help but remind his father, he's your 4th daughter's son? As soon as these words were spoken, Long Qinyan excitedly rushed forward. He originally just wanted to get closer, but he never expected the other party to be family. But Guxuanchen dodged and told him, this person is indeed the son of Long Xiniang, but he's not your great-grandson. I don't need to explain the reason, do I? When thinking about Long Xiniang's time in the Long family, Long Qinyan realized he couldn't even find the words to save face. He hurriedly begged Guxuanchen for mercy, hoping he would let the Long family go, not holding past grudges. Looking at the groveling old man in front of him, Guxuanchen couldn't help but soften a little. If you take out the treasure map and present it to us, we'll forget all about this. Of course, when these words were spoken, the dragon family had refused, but before he could finish speaking, the old man interrupted him immediately, because his eyes, Guxuanchen is the Long family's greatest treasure. The old master quite reasonably took Guxuanchen to retrieve it. With the treasure map, they soon arrived at the Long family's secret chamber. Guxuanchen looked at the insignificant-looking container. Instantly, a blinding flash of light struck everyone's eyes. When they opened their eyes again, the container had completely vanished. No one that the still life painting on which Long Jiaoshu had poured countless efforts would be so easily unraveled by a young junior. Guxuanshan held the treasure map in one hand. Suddenly, a mysterious formation appeared beneath his feet. At that moment, the sky was filled with lightning and thunder, and thousands of miles away in the Wangu Mountains, a vast aura emanated. A figure materialized from the void. This is the former saint. Following this, the ancient saint's relic appeared before everyone. This celestial event. Directly startled, all the citizens of Wanguzo City, even senior figures like Kai Ongo, who have established themselves for so long, couldn't help but widen their eyes. One must know that the victor is second only to the progressive powerful beings. Don't mention the wilderness, even in the entire Kenyan continent. They are also figures of great importance. It is said that some ancient saints, before ascending in the beast plains, would leave all their accumulated treasures to those with fate. When the ruins are triggered, the final divine will of the ancient saints, he would take one last look at this world. Then he would completely disappear from this world. Guxuanshan lowered his head and glanced. He thought it was some kind of treasure, but it turned out to be a leftover trick left by Xiaochan. Xiaochan most likely left this trick when he ascended in the righteous path. By coincidence, it was found by me. Then he shouted loudly, "Disciples of the Xiao sect, listen up. This location possesses abundant spiritual energy, a treasure among the lands of 1,000 heroes. It is the perfect choice for the Xiao sect to establish its foothold." After Xuanchen left, he left a letter for his wife Yan. "I have important matters to attend to. Tell others that I am in seclusion. As for clearing things up, it was all a lie to begin with. If you need to, you can freely write the content ending the marriage. Isn't there even a final farewell?" Thinking of this, the wife's heart felt a little lost, but she knew that this husband, a chance encounter, with his ambitions for the martial world, was limited by this small place of Wanguzo. He couldn't fulfill his aspirations here. She hugged her husband tightly. "I will definitely wait for your return. That's the only letter left for you." Meanwhile, Guxuanshan had already sent his parents home with Chai Hu. To reunite with his sister, he finally found the perfect place to establish his sect, so he brought all the disciples of the Xiao sect to Qiang. But corpses lay before him. It also made them instinctively feel a sense of shock. It seems that the appearance of the ancient saint's phantom earlier has already revealed the location of the treasure. Under temptation of rising to the top in one step, various forces had long forgotten the terrifying spiritual beasts in the mountains. They rushed in the Qiangxia border one after another. Thinking of this, the mysterious minister leaped down and walked toward the depths with strong, powerful steps. Seeing this, everyone else quickly followed. As soon as they entered the secret chamber, a huge tomb monument appeared before their eyes. 6 large characters were inscribed on it, "Listen to the sacred valley Lu Bao." Just as Mo was about to immerse himself in the joy of discovering treasure, a sudden attack struck him. Hu Hakshuan immediately stepped in front of Guxuanshan. In the next moment, several powerful figures from the spiritual realm appeared out of thin air. One of them shouted loudly, "Gushing a plan. How could the people of the southern wilderness deceive us? Either leave or..." The leader Qian Xia approached with strength, directing it toward Guxuanshan. "You are their leader, aren't you? I advise you to be quick and give up. Otherwise you won't even know how you died." When Yu Haikwan could no longer hold back. "You think you can try surviving?" At that moment, Quanxia casually launched an attack. What everyone didn't expect was, this small, seemingly reckless move actually caused Hu Haikwan to retreat. Seeing this move, "You're from the Xiao sect? A small, insignificant sect. You dare to seize the disciples of Saint Bao here? If it becomes like this, your master is probably a stray dog as well." Wen Yan and Hu Haikwan coldly snorted. "It seems you know nothing of true power. Those who defy the 5 ancestors shall be killed." When Shijin and Xiao Zunren's aura suddenly surged, they unleashed the earth scrolls they had comprehended in their sects, inheriting this terrifying power. In just a moment, they crushed the 1,000 heroes. The severely injured 1,000 heroes never expected, even though the Xiao sect is a earth sect inheritance. In the same, it's rare for 1 or 2 people to comprehend the profound mysteries of Earth Uncle. It's already hard to come by, but now they are so young. Unbelievable, you've all figured it out, Uncle De. At this moment, Mo Qianyan said, feeling embarrassed, "I've brought shame to the Xiao sect. Both senior brother and the sect master defeated their opponents with 1 move, but I needed 2 moves." The man was so angry his face turned green. "You're not saying you're ashamed of yourself. You're clearly slapping my face. Isn't it enough to kill with just 2 moves when you're in such a rush? I can defeat them right now." The man in front immediately turned his head and spoke upwards. "Miss Qin, they have comprehended the true essence of the Earth Book. We are no match for them. Please lend us your help. Afterwards, how will your Qin family handle this ancient saint's relic?" Yan, by then the descendant of the Qin family, appeared before everyone. "No problem, but I want 90%. The man felt the pinch, but they had no way out now. At that moment, a beam of light flashed from the woman's hand, and the next second a golden longsword appeared. Instantly a vast, subtle pressure swept over everyone. This pressure felt like it could tear people apart at any moment. Kunwan looked down, coldly snorted, "All of you come at once." The people below widened their eyes. This is actually the Imperial ship. The Imperial ship is an extremely powerful weapon. Not only is it an extraordinary item in itself, but it has also been following the Martial Emperor for years. It has been nourished by the Martial Emperor's vitality. The power contained within it is beyond what ordinary people can imagine. Moreover, the Imperial ship is different from the Imperial Uncle's book. Anyone with talent can cultivate it, but the Earth Sword is nourished by the Martial Emperor's vitality and is inherently unique. Even the descendants of the Martial Emperor would not easily acknowledge this. And if you're not careful, you might provoke the Earth Sword's retaliation. Kunwan smiled faintly. Since you know how powerful I am, why don't you quickly get out of here? Guxuanch's expression remained calm. You're a descendant of King Qian? Kunwan's eyes glowed with a piercing light. With a cold snort, you do have some insight, but you directly called for the ancestor's life, which should be immediately punished. In an instant, Kunwan raised her finger. A black crack appeared in space. This scene stunned the members of the Xiao sect. Although they knew the ancestor was omnipotent, they instinctively shielded Guxuanchen in front of him at that moment. At this critical moment, Guxuanchen casually called out, "Little Jin, come back." In the next moment, the sword in the woman's hand evolved, glowing with golden light. It flew into Guxuanchen's hand. As soon as the sword was grasped, it let out a crisp ringing sound, as if overflowing with endless joy. This damn sword can even be snatched? This terrifying scene stunned everyone present, because the sword is different from Uncle Dai. The sword has been nourished by blood and energy, and has developed a resonance. Even descendants of the Emperor Wu need to inherit a certain degree of bloodline to be recognized. In other words, even if others take it, they cannot use it. Kunwan's imperial ship was casually called away by Guxuanchen, and that joyfully lowly person further proclaimed his closeness with Guxuanchen. How is this possible? Kunwan's expression changed drastically. He quickly recited the incantation, forcing out a drop of vital blood. My blood, Josu's sword. Immediately a sound echoed. 2 blood droplets rapidly flew toward Swanchan, straight for the imperial ship in his hand. But when the blood droplets neared, the earth actually bounced them back. The menstrual blood connected to the ancient veins severely injured Kunwan. Her suburb instantly fell from the sky. She fainted. The Zhou and the crowd of onlookers were completely stunned. It was only at this moment that they realized that the most terrifying thing about the Xianio sect was not the disciples or elders, it was this seemingly ordinary young sect master. They looked at the woman whose body hung limp. Guxuanchen swiftly pulled her into his arms. Before anyone could react, a crowd of onlookers quickly ran off. After they left, Guxuanchen unexpectedly tore off the woman's clothes. Indeed, there was a birthmark on his left shoulder. She was the descendant of his disciple, Xiaotsin. Seeing this, the carefree Zun felt a surge of thirst. It must be the ancestor's presence within him. What secret did you discover? I'm about to interrogate you thoroughly. Come, let's go see over there. Moments later, the woman suddenly woke up. Her eyes filled with terror. She looked at Guxuanchen. What are you gonna do? Kill me if you must, but don't even think about defiling my innocence. Guxuanchen was slightly startled. Don't get the wrong idea. I have a way to save the Qin family. Qingshan is my disciple from a previous life. Upon seeing Qingshan land, I realize he predates even the Happy Emperor by several eras. Then he unleashed a powerful sword technique. Kunwan's eyes were filled with shock. How can you wield the sky-piercing sword? A woman suffering from the backlash of her refined blood essence has no strength to cultivate and resist such sword energy. In the next moment, his clothes were torn apart. Realizing what had happened, Guxuanchen's mind stirred. He sheathed his sword. He quickly took out a piece of clothing from his storage ring. He draped it over the woman. Curious, asked him again, why do you know my Qin family's skyward sword technique? Guxuanchen reached out and handed the arrow to him. I told you before, the Qin family and I have a deep bond. At the same time, I have no ill intentions toward you. Just as Qinwan was about to reach out to take the arrow, she felt a powerful force push her. Seeing this, Guanchen angrily said, Xiao Jin, from now on he is your new master. Follow him closely. Instantly the Dijin let out another sword cry, although there was some reluctance. The next moment it actively flew back into Qinwan's hand. Immediately, several sword shadows circled around Guxuanchen and Shenzhou. In a moment, a sword spirit suddenly appeared before the two of them. The former Janlin immediately knelt down upon appearing. Little Jin greets the master Kunwan. At this moment he looked even more terrified at Guxuanchen. For these years he had been gradually nurturing his spirit and mind, but Janlin didn't respond in the slightest. He had so easily summoned Janlin. Janlin spoke first. Have you already solved the seal on the Danshan? For the Janlin I created, Guxuanchen didn't have anything to hide. After his reincarnation, the seal disappeared. Does that mean Master still hasn't found the root cause of the seal? The Kishan Sword Emperor left me in this world to remind you. Back then, I followed the Sword Emperor into the Sacred Realm through a dimensional rift, but within the Sacred Realm's spatial passage. But I found that everywhere there are restrictions targeting you. The fire that once placed the seal on you is likely related to the people of the Sacred Domain. The Sword Emperor investigated carefully. He discovered that in every generation of the Sacred Domain, there have always been restrictions targeting you. At that time there was no time to investigate clearly, and the Sword Emperor was swept into the sacred domain by the power of the laws. He firmly believes that you are not dead. The last moment, with his great powers, he sent me back to the Qinjin continent in order to remind you of this matter. Guxuanshan's reincarnation this time unintentionally unlocked the seal. But he also has many doubts. Where did the seal from his past life come from? That doesn't seem like something the Azure Cloud continent could possess. A moment later, Jane Lin continued, Janti, let me remind you, there might be clues about this seal within the 7 great ancient clans. Wen Yan and Guxuanshan's eyes instantly lit up. The 7 great ancient clans, they are mysterious entities passed down from ancient times. Although they remain unfathomable to the common people, Guxuanshan, one of the 7 ancient sects, the Sky Sword sect, is located in the nearby Wensho forest. I see Guxuanshan constantly pointing at Xiaojin's forehead. I will pass the complete Sky Sword art to you. This woman has terrible talent. I don't have time to teach her right now. From now on, stay by her side and help her gradually. It seems my enemies are about to reveal themselves. After instructing the sect to relocate here, Guxuanshan set off alone for Qianjin's sect. Although spirit beasts roamed freely in the Wensho forest, they posed little obstacle to Guxuanshan. He skillfully avoided danger along the way, and quickly found the Qianjin bamboo forest. A boundless expanse of emerald green appeared before him, immediately followed by a spatial fluctuation. In the next moment, the bamboo leaves transformed into countless sharp blades, and attacked Guxuanshan. Guxuanshan quickly swung his sword to block, but facing the bamboo forest's attack he found it difficult to defend. With Guxuanshan's formation skills, leaving the bamboo forest was not difficult, but he knew that finding the secret of the past life seal was another matter. I can only lay low and sneak into the Tianjin sect for now. Then I'll figure out a way to gather information slowly. Although I haven't completely let go, Guxuanshan also knows that in order to gain the Tianjin sect's attention, he must demonstrate some talent. He used the 6 sword draw. This is already very restrained for him, but his performance still greatly shocked the governing elders of the Heavenly Sword sect. This is only the early stage of his cultivation, yet he has already comprehended the 6th layer of sword concealment. He continues to refine it. He will be unstoppable in the future. Watching Guxuanshan continuously coordinate his body and components, it was becoming more and more perfect. Aideo once again released a strange power from his body. The next second, Guxuanshan unexpectedly unleashed terrifying 7-fold sword shadows. Elder Nawanshan, through the floating light mirror, took it all in. But this time he had an additional doubt. This person's skill is unfathomably deep. He dares to trespass into Heaven's Sight sect alone. What does he intend to do? So he quickly transmitted a voice into his ear. Our Heaven's Sight sect has a rule. Those who defeat our Bamboo Forest Town's methods have the chance to become disciples of our Heaven's Sight sect. I wonder if you, sir, have such intentions. Seeing the opportunity right before him, Guxuanshan immediately agreed. Elder Wenshan stood high in the main hall. He asked about his master's sect. Guxuanshan said calmly the Saya sect, but Elder Wenshan surprisingly made him start as a miscellaneous disciple. At this time, another elder hurriedly said to Wenshan, Senior brother, do you think he's a fool? To comprehend 7 layers of the Ruoxu realm? Even a fool would know he's not lacking in talent. But Elder Wenshan fears other factions. Knowing Guxuanshan's talent, will definitely disregard the rules and snatch. They could simply let him do odd jobs first, then shower Guxuanshan with care. That's how you keep people loyal. But Guxuanshan doesn't seem to care about status. He just doesn't want to alert the enemy. From now on, you will be responsible for the daily maintenance of these puppets. You can freely use the Taoist scriptures in my hall. Feel free. You should know that the spiritual intelligence of the Taoist scriptures is far stronger than that of a spiritual master. Guxuanshan thought to himself, with this, cultivation will surely become much easier. Elder Wenshan proudly told him, my Heavenly Sword sect's puppets aren't ordinary goods. They're all refined by righteous masters. They're humanoid spiritual entities. Controlling these puppets requires a massive amount of Tao scriptures. A disciple without aptitude won't be able to control them even with countless Tao scriptures. Considering your intelligence, go to the scripture hall and try them out. But Guxuanshan only said 2 words faintly. No need. He single-handedly controlled these Taoist scriptures to rise into the air. Then under the astonished gazes of everyone, he quickly inserted them into the puppet's chest. Everyone present didn't have time to understand what was happening. When each puppet had already been reactivated, Guxuanshan stood there calmly. I can dispose of the remaining Taoist scriptures as I please, right? At this time, the elders were still shocked by Guxuanshan's strength and power. Suddenly they received other messages, saying that 2 peerless geniuses had arrived at the sect. One of them, a woman, is a descendant of the Kishin Sword sect. She possesses the earthly mirror and is currently undergoing sect assessment. So many geniuses have come in just a few days. He directly overpowered the elder, because in the past every disciple, even after spending tens of thousands of gold, could not control these puppets. But this man in front of us succeeded, with just 1 piece casually pushing it forward. Elder Wenshan couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, he discovered Guxuanshan in advance. Otherwise, he would have definitely been surpassed by others. And Xuanchen had no idea about the two women's arrival. To inspect the secret he had sealed within himself as soon as possible, he secretly entered the library in the dead of night. With his strength, it was as if no one could challenge him here. This was a record of the ancient Seven Great Sects era. He flipped through it quickly. Suddenly, a heavenly sword platform caught his attention. 7 ancient sects seemed to be guarding this mysterious place. Guxuan spent 10 days exploring all the areas of the 7 ancient sects, but exploring, he found no clues about Shenju. Just as he was pondering, he was considering whether to force his way into the forbidden area, when a loud noise suddenly caught his attention. He saw 2 beautiful women surrounded by a crowd, searching for something. It was Qin Wen and his wife Yan. They had just been recruited into the sect, and unexpectedly became the twin archery prodigies, just as their gazes. Guxuanchen on a single command immediately jumped down from the tree. He grabbed the arms of the 2 and said, "Don't speak." He pulled them over. The 3 of them came to a deserted corner. Kunwan was the first to speak, blaming him. "That day, you left without a word, leaving this young lady alone. This young lady still has many questions for you." Guxuanchen was annoyed by her incessant chatter, and he felt a headache coming on. "What do you want to ask?" Seeing the situation, Kunwan stopped beating around the bush. "Since you know me, immortal, do you know where he is now? Can you take me to see him?" Guxuanchen, however, replied seriously, "I've already undergone tribulation and injury a century ago. My disciples have long scattered. I'm afraid I cannot help you." Seeing Qinwan's disappointed expression, Guxuanchen couldn't resist any longer. "Fine, I promise that if I find any clue about her, I'll be the first to tell you." Having just dealt with Qinwan, she turned to look at her wife Yan. "How did you end up here? How did you two meet?" His wife Yan immediately blushed with embarrassment. Originally, she planned to wait for her to return home, but sadly longing had turned into sickness. Before the woman could speak, Kunwan took the lead and spoke for her. "Of course, Sister Z is also here to see you. That day, with Jianlin's help, I went to the bamboo forest to look for you. I happened to run into Sister Ziyan, so we traveled together. Under Jianlin's guidance, I finally broke through the bamboo forest of Qianjin sect's misty illusion. It's like me. He accidentally became a disciple of Qianjin sect as well. With Jianlin's help, Kunwan's sky-supporting sword title has made remarkable progress, but his wife Yan is too shy to speak up. She came because she missed her husband, so she used the excuse of her increasing power and influence to specially come and thank Guxuanchen for his guidance. Now that things had come to this point, Guxuanchen couldn't say much more. He could only temporarily keep the 2 of them by his side. He then advised them to be careful in their actions, and to make sure not to reveal their identities. The 2 young ladies naturally agreed. Next month will be the 7-sect martial arts competition. His wife Yan specifically asked him whether he should avoid standing out as much as possible. The so-called 7-sect martial arts competition is a tradition passed down by the 7 ancient sects. It is held once every 100 years. The ranking of each competition affects the distribution of resources to the 7 sects. Every sect values is highly, fighting to be the first to pull out the headworm. But this year's 7-sect martial meet, I heard it will take place on the Pure Land Heavenly Sword platform. Guxuanchen couldn't help but be stunned. "Are you saying the Pure Land will open?" Kunwan and his wife Yan couldn't help but stare at him seriously. "Senior Gu, is there anything we can help with?" Guxuanchen pondered for a moment. "You two prepare yourselves. We will cultivate together." Soon they arrived at the hot spring. Guxuanchen casually took out some spirit herbs and poured them into the pool. "These are what I recently found exploring the sect. Soaking in this medicinal bath and cultivating will help you to quickly improve your cultivation. I won't be able to constantly watch over you. From now on, you need to be better able to protect yourselves." At these words, the 2 women felt a little embarrassed. Looking at the torture device filled with liquid, could the 3 of them really be subjected to this ordeal in broad daylight? Just then, Yen the wife was the first to remove her clothes and step down. "I and Elder Gu are husband and wife. Such cultivation is normal." Kinwan secretly made up her mind. Isn't it just cultivation? It's not some shady business. Not scared at all. Soon she also took off her gown and entered the plain clothes. "Guxuanchen, what are you waiting for? Come now." At this moment, Guxuanchen, standing by the shore, couldn't help but feel speechless. "I was just about to teach you the water avoidance technique, but I didn't tell you to take off your clothes." Gyukshin never expected that his disciples' descendants would be so bold. He originally intended to help the women improve their strength, but he never expected both women to develop feelings for him. In the blink of an eye, Guxuanchen had already stored tens of thousands of Tao scriptures, placed around the spiritual pool. The 2 young women looked slightly expectant, but immediately Guxuanchen casually pointed his finger. It was then that they realized the man not come down as they had expected. With his 3 brothers, instead he used a burst of spiritual power from afar to envelop. Guxuan's double fingers once again gathered a sphere of spiritual power. This is cultivating the mind. A moment, the 2 heavenly beauties felt a surge of heat rising from within. The fire instantly surged up, accompanied by the nourishment of the medicine. Kun could no longer hold back and cried out. Soon after, ripples stirred around them. I didn't expect him to break through so quickly. Meanwhile, Guxuanshan, sitting by the shore, didn't even glance at the woman's impressive assets. You should put your clothes on first. Several days later, Guxuanshan himself also made consecutive breakthroughs. This cultivation session alone cost him 100,000 high-grade Tao scriptures to barely break through the bottleneck. For others, this is even more incredible than cheating, but he felt that realm didn't represent much. However, with his current spiritual power, dealing with the 7 major shareholders should be more than enough. Then, he instructed the 2 to cultivate diligently according to this method. Without his orders, they must absolutely not act rashly. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. Soon the day of the 7 sects martial competition arrived. At this time, the major sects gathered at the Emperor Heaven's Sword platform. The disciples of the 7 sects were full of confidence, aiming to take the top spot. As the sect horns sounded, the competition officially began. Elder Chen Kong of the Bing and Zong sect, the senior with the most experience, stepped forward first. He declared that the purpose of today's martial competition was to select disciples with exceptional talent. The winner of the martial arts competition will be rewarded with a superior grade magic weapon, a sword, and a high-level martial art, 1 step to gold worth 600,000. However, given that the last competition's dismissive attitude resulted in the loss of many talented individuals, this time we've made some adjustments to the martial arts competition. The dismissive content will no longer be between disciples. Instead, it will be integrated into the journey through the Qingyan Mountain River, the 7 sects' inheritance. Find the wicked-hearted. The ranking will be decided in 3 days based on the total number from each family. His words were drowned out by the sound of drums and gongs. He sensed a terrifying aura. As his gaze fell upon the arena, the large screen before him was painted with a landscape scene. Yet hidden within it was a force of law, unlike the laws of the Azure Cloud continent. According to the words of the Sky Pillar Sword Forest from back then, his past life seal was related to the Holy Domain. Could it be that the Qingyan Mountain and River map is at the core of the secret behind the seal? While I was pondering this, Elder Chengong had already announced that the 7-sect martial arts competition had officially begun. He then turned his head to look at the other 6-sect masters. Then let's begin. Immediately, the 7-sect leaders simultaneously formed hand seals. Each one released a beam of light with different colors. Then a violent spatial fluctuation spread out from the middle of Qingyan Mountain. The 7-sect leaders stood in unison. The disciples of each sect flashed and quickly entered the screen. Guxuanshan noticed this. Without any hesitation, he followed inside. But as Guxuanshan passed by Elder Chengkong, Elder Chengkong's expression suddenly changed dramatically. The moment Guxuanshan stepped in, he immediately shouted. He ordered the other elders to seal off the screen immediately. At this moment, all the disciples were puzzled. What is going on here? Why won't they let anyone in? Meanwhile, Elder Chengkong beside him was wearing a meaningful smile. Suddenly the sky darkened, and a purple fan appeared above the Tianjin platform without anyone noticing. You all did a great job. From now on, hold on tightly to Qingyan Mountain in the land. I will quickly open the passage between the sacred realm and the lower realm of Qingyan continent. They didn't expect it either. Guxuanshan's appearance actually attracted the patriarch who had stepped into the sacred realm thousands of years ago. Phantom, the phantom of reality, stood motionless above the sky. The one who could not be killed by medicine has finally been found. He was just an insignificant odd-job disciple of the sect, but his appearance provoked the patriarch, who had entered the sacred realm tens of thousands of years ago, to violate the prohibition. He was willing to appear in the mortal world to kill him. Only did everyone realize this is not the 7-sect martial arts tournament at all. It's actually a conspiracy against Guxuanshan. A month when Guxuanshan willingly became a disciple of the miscellaneous arts, it raised the elders' suspicions. He clearly has terrifying strength, yet he is content with mediocrity. This fact is simply too suspicious. That's why the elders instructed the disciples to keep watch at all times. He observed every move of Guxuanshan. Then he secretly found an opportunity to tell the patriarch. It was then discovered that the man was actually the terrifying Liangxi Jin Dabo from 100,000 years ago. Because of his fear of Guxuanshan's strength, the patriarch decided to trick him into the Qingyan Mountain and River map during the 7-sects martial arts competition. The patriarch took out a sphere filled with spiritual energy. Your task now is to keep an eye on him. Once I break through the sacred domain, it will be his time to die without a burial. Immediately after, the spiritual sphere transformed into several rays of light. They surged into the bodies of the 7 main sect leaders. All 7 of them felt their power rising at unimaginable speed. It was climbing rapidly. At this moment, Guxuanshan was inside the Qingyan Mountain and River map, unaware of the events outside. At that moment, a butterfly flew at his fingertip, but as he carefully observed the frequency of the butterfly's wing flaps, he then discovered that the space contained a force that surpassed the laws of the Qingyan continent, and this is the most terrifying law of time. Here, 100 years is equal to only 1 year outside. Back then he trained so many advanced powerhouses. Naturally, Guxuanshan knew where the peak of the world was, but at that moment, suddenly a kind voice entered his ears. Following that, a middle-aged woman who looked 7 or 8 points similar to Guxuanshan appearing before him. "My child, I have finally found you." Guxuanshan, a sense of alertness, and coldly stared at her, but the woman kept expressing her concern for him. "Silly child, I am your mother." Guxuanshan found it somewhat ridiculous. "My mother does not look like you." He was well aware that this space was related to the remainder, so he immediately forced a drop of menstrual blood from his fingertip. He pressed it onto his eyes. This was the heavenly eye, a divine ability capable of seeing through all the illusions of the world. The Duke moved, and with a single finger, Guxuanshan pointed out. Missed time. Countless crimson lights surged toward the madam, enveloping her. The madam smiled faintly and did not resist. "Silly child. That Long Xiniang is just your mother in the Qinyan continent, but I am your mother in the Holy Realm. She gave birth to your body, but your soul and memories were both given by me. Winning Guxuanshan has already taken back the spell. What you said is true. Just now he used a spell that can see through the world, all the illusory heavenly eye powers, but there is not the slightest flaw visible in the other person." The woman slowly nodded. "You are the Empress, the 9th prince born in the Holy Realm to the Holy Master. When the demon clan invaded, we accidentally lost you. Over the years, the Holy Master and I searched through all the heavens and worlds. We never expected to find you only now." Guxuanshan was slightly stunned, but the woman couldn't help but secretly wipe away her tears. "You possess the extraordinary talent of the Sacred Lord's bloodline." Mother left. Countless marks similar to the Qinyan mountain and river map across the myriad worlds. "The resonance today finally allowed me to meet you." Guxuanshan's widened. "I am the Sacred Lord's bloodline." The woman nodded and told him, "The Saint Master once infused the purest Tao laws, mystic insights, and bloodline power in your soul. Otherwise, how could you master so many obviously Tao laws that surpass those of Qinyan continent? You could instantly recognize the law of time with just one glance." "The Holy Lord sealed your breath to protect you. What he left behind. Come, child. Now I can protect you. Mother will remove your seal. You won't be trapped in the practice realm forever." Guxuanshan's heart trembled, but his face remained calm as he walked towards the woman. Just then, Guxuanshan's eyes suddenly sharpened. He channeled his law power, instantly condensing it in his palm. Then with a swift palm strike, he pierced straight through the rich man's chest. The moment he withdrew his hand, countless laws were seen continuously coursing through the rich man's body. In extreme agony, the benevolent expression on the rich man's face vanished. The son truly has some skill. He was able to see through the true form's illusion. At the same time, Elder Chen Kong immediately shouted loudly, "All disciples, listen up. The 7-sect martial assembly is temporarily suspended. Everyone stand by in place." Although the crowd was confused about what the elders were up to, even the ancestor had appeared. They didn't dare to say much. Seeing the woman who was exposed suddenly burst into wild laughter. "When the real one opens the portal to the holy domain universe this time, the Taoist will personally come in, and you will know who I am." At that moment, the 14th week suddenly turned pitch black. Countless sharp wails from the depths of hell kept echoing in his ears. Although he was in a perilous situation, but there was still an indescribable excitement in Guxuanshan's eyes. After all, this was the closest he had been to the seal and the secret of his identity in 2 lifetimes. "But if you want to seal it here, you will have to see if you have the ability to do so." Guxuanshan immediately began. "Absorbing the spatial aura here." Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed in the outside world. Meanwhile, several elders of the Sky Sword sect are still digesting the immense power granted to them by the Patriarch. In just this 1 year, they've gained far more than they would have in several hundred years of hardship. Next, they just need to wait for the Patriarch's forces to eliminate that kid, Guxuanshan. Then they will surely receive even greater rewards. Just as they were dreaming, the Qinyan mountain and river map suddenly transmitted a violent fluctuation. Immediately after, a strong light burst forth from the scroll. Elder Chen Kong immediately threw the scroll away. The next moment, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the strong light suddenly scattered. Guxuanshan's. He actually walked out of the Qinyan mountain and river map. Seeing Guxuanshan, who was exuding a terrifying aura, everyone's faces changed in fear. How is this possible? He actually broke through the seal of the Qinyan mountain and river map, and his cultivation has reached the terrifying yin-yang mirror. In just a year, such a crazy breakthrough. Is this a joke? But what others don't know is that under the influence of the law of time, 100 years inside is equivalent to 1 year outside. Although the spiritual energy inside is illusory, Guxuanshan's cultivation has never been fake. With the accumulation of time, Guxuanshan directly skipped the golden body stage from the Dharma phase stage, and broke through to the early stage of the yin-yang mirror. This was a leap of an entire great realm. Seeing that he was no match for the opponent, Elder Chen Kong immediately revealed his trump card. Bring them to me. At that moment, Kun Wan and his wife Yan were bound tightly and appeared before everyone. The disciples of the seven ancient sects immediately surrounded them. Wife Yan did not want her husband to die with her. He hurriedly said, "It's our fault, we've implicated you. There are too many. You should leave quickly." Before he finished speaking, a long wreath was already placed on the necks of the two girls. "Otherwise, you'll see what flying flesh and blood means." Gook Swanchan smiled faintly. "Such arrogant words. I'd like to see what you can do. What kind of courage do you have to threaten me?" At that moment, Gook Swanchan shook a mirror in his hand. Suddenly, a golden light struck the Qingyan Mountain and River map. In an instant, the Qingyan Mountain and River map rose into the air, then released a beam of dazzling light. The light enveloped the entire Tianjin platform. Then a tremendous sharp sound was heard. Many elders from various sects with slightly lower strength were present. The bagging was absorbed into it. The seven great lords immediately begged for mercy upon seeing this, but before they could finish speaking, their bodies involuntarily began flying upward. In just a moment, the Sky Sword platform was left with only Book Swanchan and the two women. The two women stood frozen in place, dumbfounded. They never expected that Book Swanchan, with just one strike, sealed the disciples and elders here. However, Book Swanchan didn't stop there. As the alliance's situation constantly shifted, the light of the Qingyan Mountain map gradually enveloped the entire Heavenly Sword sect. The two girls were shocked by Gook Swanchan's strength. They remained dumbfounded, frozen in place. The presence of so many powerful individuals vanished without a trace in an instant. This is an ancient sect that has lasted for tens of thousands of years. Yet it was completely emptied by Gook Swanchan just like that. But before they could react, they were also sucked into the Qingyan Mountain River map. Gook Swanchan told them that the enemy's strength in this operation is still unknown. Since they have discovered this operation, anyone connected to it from now on will likely face endless pursuit and assassination from the victorious party. Your cultivation in the Qingyan Mountains will not only be twice the result with half the effort, but also protect. Before the good woman could respond, Gook Swanchan put away the Qingyan Mountain and River map. He flashed, heading straight for the Xiaozong sect in the Wangu Mountain range. The Xiaozong sect, who hadn't seen Gook Swanchan for several years, were worried about his safety. Suddenly, Gook Swanchan's voice reached their ears. "Report, has your cultivation improved during my absence?" Everyone was overjoyed upon seeing the Grandmaster and quickly knelt down to pay their respects. Mokanian, even more eager, said immediately, "We will follow your command. Quanzong has gained great fame now thanks to you. The Immortal Realm indeed is an extraordinary place for cultivation. Our strength is greatly improved." But what will Lord Gook Swanchan say next? But it left them completely dumbfounded. "The Xiangxia lands are no longer worthy of my attention. I've decided to take you all to a better place." With that, he directly took Qingyan Mountain and its people. A sharp force swept through. The entire Xiao sect was completely enveloped. Everyone felt a flash before their eyes, and their surroundings transformed. The surrounding spiritual energy and the power of the laws were so dense that it was beyond what anyone dared to imagine. As expected, the Gu family and the Qi family were quickly brought in. Looking at the people I had once interacted with, one by one they were all being protected. Gook Swanchan finally felt somewhat relieved. At the same time, on the way through Qingyan Mountain and River, a loud chaotic shouting broke the calm that should have been present. At this moment, the seven sect leaders were bound together in a deep pit. Around them, dozens of fierce evil beasts circled in order to regain his freedom. Elder Chen Kong voluntarily told him that the next remaining passageway was at the sky burial of Mount Penglai. Upon hearing this news, he immediately rushed towards the location without hesitation. Gook Swanchan had just entered Mount Penglai. Although he hadn't yet seen the holy light, he could already feel the immense surge of spiritual energy here. It seems this must have leaked out before the Holy Realm portal opened. At the same time, many martial artists, upon seeing the holy light, rushed to cultivate. Just as he was about to go and see for himself, a girl suddenly called out to him from behind, "Sir, are you also going to see the auspicious glow? The heavenly burial spirit is one of the 9 brothers of Penglai Mountain. Extremely dangerous. How about we travel together?" Gook Swanchan refused him without a second thought. Faced with the man's refusal, the woman seemed unfazed. Because everyone who comes here is a strong individual, they simply disdain traveling with others. But the woman was troubled. She said, "Where exactly am I supposed to go? Only then can we gather the 7 absolutes and the G techniques." When Gook Swanchan was instantly stunned. "You mean the 7 absolutes and the G techniques?" These were the formations he bestowed upon his former disciple, Little Madman, when he first became his apprentice. "They are all my disciples' formations. They are all my disciples. He is the master of 10 great emperor-level powerhouses. He's also trained countless genius disciples. Now some people want to use their numbers to overwhelm the few. It turns out this is a little trick played by the holy domain experts. They injected all the holy light into Gook Swanchan's body. Before they come down, they want Gook Swanchan to experience what it's like to become the enemy of the continent. And just as the holy domain experts expected, The three factions that were once in fierce conflict now all turned their weapons toward Guxuanshan. Xi, the furious alliance leader, even threatened to kill them all, then extract the holy light from Guxuchan's body. Guxuchan's group's faces changed drastically in fear. They all claimed they didn't know Guxuchan. After everyone fled, the only woman left behind was forcibly dragged away by a man. The Kuangfeng Dainja pointed at Guxuchan and sneered, "Kid, you're all alone now. If you know what's good for you, hand over the holy light. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." As soon as he finished speaking, Bin, who had already fled, ran back. Guxuan is a bit surprised and curiously asked, "Why are you back? Aren't you afraid of dying?" Bin, however, replied, "Who isn't afraid of death? But even Ruxia would actively seek you out. It shows you must possess extraordinary abilities. I want to gamble. If we survive this, in consideration of my risking my life, please accept me as your disciple and teach me your array formations and spells." Guxuchan could only sigh and say, "Teaching you array formations isn't a problem, but accepting you as a disciple, forget it." He doesn't want to mess up the seniority anymore. He's still troubled about how to handle the matter with Q Zion. At this moment, the three major forces have already gathered together. The leader of the Qiangxing sect spoke first. "Two mere young men in the yin-yang realm think they can resist. Open your eyes and look. On our side we have all saints. Killing you would be as simple as crushing an ant." However, Guxuanshan calmly watched them perform. And Bin doesn't have such strong mental fortitude. Young people are still young. They're a bit lacking compared to someone of an ancestor's level. Sai, the leader, also said with a smile, "Young master, don't blame us for bullying you with our numbers." The people from the Qiankan alliance behind him laughed loudly. It was as if they had already won. Guxuanshan just chuckled. "Wait until you re in hell and do not cry to King Yama, saying I bullied you because I had more people." With that, he chanted a mantra. The Kinyan mountain and river map immediately unfolded. Then countless people flew out of the map with a whoosh. The three major forces were stunned when they saw this scene. They had not expected that Guxuanshan was carrying so many people with him. Leader Xi could not believe it and stared wide-eyed in disbelief. A drop of cold sweat unknowingly slid down her face. When everyone emerged from the picture, they completely surrounded the three major forces, layer upon layer. The three major forces finally understood what it meant to be outnumbered. After emerging, the exhilarated leader of the Xiao sect declared that the vast majority of them had already broken through to the Emperor realm. This time they would absolutely not hold Guxuchan back. Meanwhile, Bin was equally astonished by this scene. So many experts in the Imperial realm are actually his disciples. Guxuanshan just... "Then let me see the results of your cultivation during this time." Upon hearing that Guxuanshan wanted to see their cultivation results, everyone gathered their strength, ready for action. The supreme leader of the Xianyao sect even charged ahead, leading the way. The three great powers who had been incredibly arrogant before were now easily defeated, unable to put up any resistance. All that could be heard were the screams and cries for help, and even the sect leader, Sai Mengzhu, was unable to withstand a single blow from the sect master and was KO'd. This was an overwhelming battle. In just a moment, the battle was already over. The sect master knelt before Guxuanshan and expressed that all the people from the three major forces had been eliminated. Seeing the growth of the younger generation, Guxuanshan was also very pleased. It was not in vain that he had put in so much effort. At this time, a junior approached with some worry and asked Guxuchan, "The holy light has disappeared now. Won't your enemies temporarily stop coming down to trouble you?" However, Guxuchan moved his hands and feet and said, "They tried every means to come down to Qinjian continent to kill me. But am I the kind of person who would hide and dodge? I'm going to personally meet those bastards. They're all my disciples. It's over." As soon as Guxuanshan entered the other world, he encountered a dragon. Is this the start of a human-dragon battle, or will he be devoured by the dragon? It turns out that just recently, after the three major factions were wiped out by the likes of the Xiao sect, Guxuanshan was preparing to head to the Holy Land to take revenge on those guys. He's not the type to sit back and do nothing after being attacked. He then struck the sky with his right hand, which had gathered holy power. Suddenly a rumbling sound echoed through the air. The terrifying power nearly blew the people of Xiao sect away. Guxuan roared, "Open!" Immediately in the previously empty sky, passage slowly opened. Seeing this, the crowd exclaimed, "Could this be the passage to the sacred realm?" Guxuanshan gave a charming smile. "This is all thanks to those guys from the holy domain. With this holy light, I can track the aura of the holy domain space." I then ordered the people from the Xiao sect and others to quickly enter the Qingshan map. I will lead everyone to the holy domain to investigate. And Bin saw that everyone had entered the Qingshan map and hurriedly called out, "Senior Goat, what about me?" Guxuanshan glanced at him. "As for me, I have already made arrangements." Then he stepped into the portal and entered the otherworldly space. It was his first time in this otherworldly space, and he was somewhat curious. He couldn't help but look around and muttered, "Is this the place where the holy domain's portal connects?" Just then, something began to twist around him. He couldn't help but look over. As the wriggling grew larger, these things slowly merged together. Immediately afterward, a dragon appeared, its mouth wide open, roaring at him. By the time Guxuchin reacted, he was already surrounded by the dragon's body. Humph, a mere insect dares to try and devour this lord. Just as he was preparing to do battle with the dragon, an energy ball suddenly flew from the distance at high speed. With a bang, it struck the dragon's body. Guxuchin was momentarily confused. It was at this moment that a vortex of energy rapidly formed in the distance. Guxuchin felt that this aura was somewhat familiar. However, before he could react, he was sucked into the vortex. He didn't know how much time had passed. When he woke up, he found himself in a stone chamber, and everywhere around is filled with the power of the laws. It must be the sacred domain, without a doubt. Suddenly I noticed a skull lying in the distance. Is my disciple? This man only wanted to use the identity of a dead person. I didn't expect he almost got exposed. It turns out that just a few days ago, Guxuchin, who had just entered the other dimension, encountered a flood dragon. Just as he was about to engage in a fierce battle with the dragon, he was suddenly sucked into an energy vortex. When he woke up, he found himself inside a stone chamber, and there was a powerful force of laws filling the entire chamber. In other words, he had entered the sacred domain. As he walked through the stone chamber, he suddenly noticed a withered corpse sitting under a stone pillar. He then approached the corpse and began to investigate. This person has been dead for 1,000 years, and he died because of a martial deviation. At the same time, he sensed that familiar aura from before, but found that this person did not have that aura. It seems the one who saved him in the passage earlier must have been the little madman. And before leaving the Kenyan continent, Guxuchin had made arrangements. He passed on the art of formations to the little madman's descendant, Hambin. Moreover, this spell could absorb holy light to enhance cultivation. As long as the holy light reappears in the Azure Cloud continent, Guxuchin will have him lead the Han family and others to absorb all the holy light. That's why the scene at a certain altar in the holy domain occurred. They used thousands of holy lights to open a passage between the holy domain and the Azure Cloud continent. But once the holy light reached the Azure Cloud continent, it was absorbed and refined by someone. In order to capture Guxuchin, they were determined. They immediately spread the news of Guxuchin's presence on the Azure Cloud continent. They vowed to find him, even if it meant digging through the earth. The scene shifts back to the stone chamber. Guxuchin then discovered a token hanging on the skeleton. He took the token and saw that it was inscribed with 3 characters, Gu Santong. This should be the deceased's name. Just then, a loud voice came from outside the stone chamber. We respectfully request the master uncle to emerge from seclusion. A large group of Chanwu Hall disciples stood before the stone gate. A disciple named Zhang Gufeng called out again, "Our master has already ascended to immortality. Please, Uncle Master, come out of seclusion and take charge of the heavenly martial hall for us." Upon hearing this, Guxuchin immediately put away the token in his hand. He planned to use the identity of this deceased skeleton to probe the truth of the sacred domain. At this moment, the disciples in front of the stone gate, seeing there was no movement for a long time, also thought that their Uncle Master had, like their master, ascended to immortality. They followed the instructions left by their master before his ascension. If their Shishu has also passed away, let them break through this formation. Just as they were about to use the 7 stars formation to break through the array, the stone door in front of them suddenly rumbled and slowly opened. A man walked out from inside. Upon seeing this, everyone quickly knelt and shouted in unison, "Greetings, Shishu." Zhang Gufeng hurriedly said, "I didn't know you were still alive, Shishu." Disciple had no intention of activating the array destruction technique. Please forgive me. How could the person pretended to be their master uncle, Guxuchin, care about such trivial matters? After understanding the general situation, he couldn't help but sigh. Senior brother Shenqian has passed away. Why couldn't he have waited a little longer for me? Before Guxuchin, filled with sorrow, could continue speaking, Zhang Gufeng suddenly said this, "Master uncle, your master is your senior sister, right?" Guxuchin's face turned awkward upon hearing this. He thought to himself, why would a woman choose a man's name? Clears throat. You don't understand. Back then, senior brother Shenkang and I were as close as brothers. I always treated her as a senior brother, not a senior sister. The disciples all grew suspicious. Uncle Master, you always treated Master as a brother, but you clearly betrothed yourself to her. Before he could finish, Guxuchin scolded him and sent him away. He didn't want to continue the topic, otherwise he would be exposed. Alright, take me to pay my respects to senior brother Shenkang. They're all my disciples. This man possesses the bloodline of a sacred realm Saint King. He is proficient in alchemy, artifact refinement, and array formations. He is also the master of 10 great emperor-level powerhouses. Now he's being hunted down by powerful figures from the sacred realm. He's not the type to hide and run. He plans to go to the sacred realm himself and confront those fellows. At this time, Guxuchin in the Great Hall was reviewing the sect's annals. Below, a group of disciples stood respectfully in several rows. After a moment, Guxuchin had a complete understanding of the sect. This sect is called the 100 Battles Hall. It's an insignificant small sect in the sacred realm. The branches below are divided into 4 martial halls: Heaven, Earth, Mystery, and Flood. Originally, the Heavenly Martial Hall was the leader of the four halls, but after years of battle, many strong warriors have fallen. Now it ranks at the bottom of the four halls. According to the rules of the 100 Battles Hall, if the Heavenly Martial Hall doesn't have an elder step forward to take charge, it will be dissolved. All disciples will be scattered and assigned to the other three halls. That's why they insist on having Guxuantong come out to take charge. At this moment, one disciple couldn't help but whisper in his senior brother's ear, "Senior brother Zhao, why do I feel like Uncle Master's aura is so weak? It feels just like those people who just ascended from the lower realms." Senior brother Zhao made a hand gesture. "You all don't understand our Uncle Master at all. He is the #1 genius of our Chanwu Hall. His heart is dedicated to the pursuit of the Supreme Tao. So for many years he has been in seclusion, focusing on his cultivation." Xiao Gofeng, realizing what happened, slapped the disciple on the head. "Idiot, can't use voice transmission. If senior uncle hears that, we'll get a beating. Besides, senior uncle should have reached the realm of returning to the true essence by now. That's a realm beyond our reach." Just then, after looking through the sect's yearbook, Guxuantong wanted to learn more about his situation, so he casually pointed at a disciple and asked, "How much do you know about the Haoshan Saint King of the Sacred Realm?" A disciple beside him secretly nudged him. "Make a good impression. This senior uncle wants to test whether you know the history of the Haoshan Saint King." Xiaokang quickly bowed and said, "The Haoshan Saint King ruled the sacred realm for hundreds of thousands of years with his powerful strength. During that time, the sacred realm flourished immensely, attracting tributes from all the races. But 1,000 years ago, a sword of destiny suddenly appeared in the sacred realm. It is said that whoever possesses the sword of destiny can break through their own limits and enter the legendary divine realm. The Holy King Haoshan obtained this sword of destiny with his immense strength, but before he could fully comprehend it, he was ambushed by powerful beings from other realms. It is said that severely wounded at the time, the Holy King sealed all his knowledge and the secrets of the sword of destiny inside the bodies of his 9 holy sons. He then hid them in various corners of the sacred domain, but some say the Holy King sealed the secret inside the body of one of the most gifted holy sons. Others say that all 9 holy sons must be gathered to uncover the secret from that year. These legends cannot be verified. The whereabouts of the 9 holy sons are also unknown." After listening to Xiao Kang's account, Guxuantong finally understood. He realized why the powerful figures of the holy domain were hunting him. He himself was one of the 9 holy sons. Because he possesses the bloodline of the Holy King, he is extremely sensitive to the heavenly Tao. The seal placed upon him was to protect his aura from being detected by others. Although the 100 Battle Hall's strength is average, with Guxuantong's position, it's perfect for gathering information on the Holy Realm. The only trouble now is how to instruct them. After all, each of them possesses strength far beyond the imperial realm of Kinyan continent. At this moment, the disciples below saw Guxuantong's face darkening slightly. Everyone was too scared to even breathe. With a loud shout from Guxuantong, "Gather at the training ground, all of you." A disciple next to Xiaokang patted his shoulder and said with some sympathy, "Did you say something wrong just now? Master Uncle is planning to give you a beating. He's my disciple too. This man has guided countless talented disciples in the lower realm. He only just ascended to the upper realm and is already instructing the disciples of the holy domain in cultivation. Although his cultivation method is different, and he only has the cultivation of the myriad visions mirror, he possesses the bloodline of a holy lord, which gives him a keen sensitivity to the laws of the heavenly Tao. And the holy domain focuses on cultivating the power of the laws. The realm levels are simple and crude, divided by stages. The lowest is the myriad visions mirror, which is the realm that Guxuantong is currently at. Above that is the divine bridge mirror, then the mysterious mirror, Nirvana mirror, ultimate mirror, primordial mirror, divine bridge sun, divine bridge earth mirror, celestial origin mirror. The highest level, Saint King realm, allows one to comprehend the ascension to the divine realm. Guxuantong, in order to better learn and guide them, he ordered them to pair up in groups of 2, with individuals of similar strength. Although the disciples were meeting this senior for the first time, they had all heard of his genius reputation. Now that the senior was personally going to guide their cultivation, everyone was excited and ready to show off. They all wanted to perform well in front of the senior. Soon the first match began, Zhao Gofeng versus Lu Ming. In order to allow the senior to better see their individual shortcomings, the two of them unleashed their full power and fought without holding back. As a result, the battle scenes were extremely intense. Meanwhile, Guxuantong, who was observing closely, noticed that the warriors of the holy domain were far superior to those of the Kinyan continent in their control over the power of laws and their use of weapons. If the main focus of cultivators on Kinyan continent is spiritual energy, then the people of the holy domain focus on the more domineering power of laws. While they were sparring, Guxuantong was quietly analyzing their martial arts techniques. Half a stick of incense later, the winner was decided. Zhao Gofeng had the slight upper hand. Guxuantong spoke up, telling them to step down and start the next round of matches. As the next group began their match, he quickly noticed that these disciples weren't unleashing the full power of their techniques. Could it be because the 100 Battles Hall had no one to guide them? At that moment, another disciple was about to lose. Guxuanshan casually gave a piece of advice. Circulate your energy along the Kame first, then go to the Woi acupoint. Master, are you giving me guidance? He didn't think much about it and followed his master's advice. However, in the next moment, a force erupted within his body. He instinctively threw a punch. By the time he reacted, his opponent had already been defeated. The disciple stared at his own hands, still in a daze. It's hard to believe I actually defeated senior brother. Yet Guxuanshan remains calm and calls for the next group. Even senior brother Zhao standing beside him looks somewhat dazed. At this moment, a junior disciple beside him whispers in his ear, Senior brother, what Master Uncle just mentioned about the technique isn't recorded in the sect scriptures, but I feel like what Master Uncle said aligns more with the way of heaven. Meanwhile, Guxuanshan is still guiding the next disciple. Concentrate the sword intent, use your left hand, as Guxuanshan guided his disciples. His image in the hearts of everyone slowly grew taller, like a divine lamp illuminating their path forward. At this moment, the disciples were even more certain that Master Gu was their hope, and even more the savior of their Shanwu Hall. They're all my disciples. This man is really something. He's going to guide all the disciples in their cultivation at the same time. After watching the trials of the ordinary group, Guxuanshan felt it was about time. He instructed them all to stop. He thought that guiding group by group in the trials was too troublesome. He told them to practice at the usual intensity right where they stood. He would guide their martial arts individually. Hearing this, all the disciples were momentarily stunned. They stared at Guxuanshan in disbelief. Seeing their expressions, it was clear they didn't believe he could do it. With a movement of his mind, a surge of spiritual energy condensed between his two fingers. In the next moment, the energy was transmitted into everyone's minds. Everyone who received Guxuanshan's transmission of energy was stunned. Whether it was the operation of the cultivation technique or the evolution of martial skills, everything became incredibly clear all of a sudden. They had never seen such a magical technique. They were all discussing the exquisite sword moves in their minds. Guxuanshan saw that they were all convinced, so he took it upon himself to interrupt their conversation at the right moment. He told them to stop wasting time and go practice. The disciples were all excited, as if they had been injected with adrenaline, each one full of energy, ready to practice the exquisite sword moves in their minds. It was at this moment that a favored disciple rushed over to report, Chen Hanfeng, the senior disciple of Xuanwu Hall, is leading the disciples of Xuanwu Hall to pay their respects to you, Master Uncle. They are waiting outside. Meanwhile, inside Xuanwu Hall, a large fat man was heartily enjoying the food on the table. He is Lu Heng, the master of Xuanwu Hall. Below him knelt a group of disciples with bruised and swollen faces. They had come to complain to their master. They want the hall master to uphold justice for them. Lu Heng took a sip of tea and asked what trouble they had caused again. Hearing this, Chen Hanfeng quickly explained the situation. We heard that Master Gu, who had been in seclusion for thousands of years in Xuanwu Hall, had emerged. We originally intended to pay a visit, but unexpectedly we were insulted and driven away. Lu Heng looked at him with sharp eyes. Are you sure what you're saying is the truth? Despite his weight, he's got a bit of sharp eyes. I think you were deliberately looking for trouble, and ended up getting a good scolding, right? Hearing this, the disciples trembled with fear, just as Chen Hanfeng was about to explain. Lu Heng looked at him with a cheerful smile. You weren't beaten up by that valley Master Gu, were you? It seems more likely you were injured by those weak disciples. Tell me what's going on. Chen Hanfeng quickly answered honestly. We heard that Master Gu had left seclusion and wanted to ask for guidance. However, we were stopped by Zhao Gufeng and his men, and Zhao Gufeng even attacked and wounded his ear. The most important thing is that the energy of all the disciples of the Heavenly Martial Hall has changed. Now even the lowest ranked disciple is at the mid-stage of the Divine Bridge realm. Master Gu said that since we of the Xuanwu Hall are so sincere in seeking guidance, they let them exchange a few moves with us and instructed them to be a bit harsher, so that they wouldn't say the Heavenly Martial Hall wasn't attentive enough. Zhao Gufeng really listened to him. He led the disciples and gave us a beating before throwing us out. They really rubbed Black Tortoise Hall's face into the ground, not giving you any face at all, Hall Master, and every one of them has at least broken through 3 realms. The disciple was no match for them, so I came to ask you for justice. Then the 4 halls will definitely have to recompete to determine rankings. This will inevitably threaten the resources allocated to our Xuanwu Hall. Hearing that resources will be threatened, this fat man is a little restless. He's a foodie, anything could be lacking but not food. Meanwhile, at Xuanwu Hall, a group of disciples have made consecutive breakthroughs. They either perfected their martial arts or made breakthroughs in their cultivation. Guxuanshan, sitting in the main hall, is a little troubled. Every disciple is making breakthroughs, only he remains at the myriad phenomena realm. It's time for me to find a quiet place to improve my cultivation. But all of this has been noticed by the disciples. Uncle Gu just sent someone to organize all our martial arts and scriptures. Could it be that he's planning to go into seclusion again? I still want him to guide me more. Seeing the disciples' expressions, Gook Swanchan couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. I still need to find a way to avoid them. But at that moment a big fat man walked in. Senior Brother Gu, your Chanwu Hall certainly puts on a great show. Hearing of your emergence from seclusion, I kindly had my disciples come to visit you according to the rules, and offer some guidance. But you had your Chanwu Hall disciples severely injure fellow disciples. That's not according to the rules, is it? Zhou Gofeng quickly whispered a reminder to Gook Suchin beside him. This is Hall Master Lu Heng of Xuanwu Hall. After listening to his disciple's account, Gook Suchin looked at the fat man with a somewhat nonchalant air. I didn't mean to seriously injure a fellow disciple. I just didn't expect the so-called leader of the 4 halls with the highest combat power to be so weak and fragile. If you don't believe me, ask them after a single move whether any of our people continued attacking. The fat guy's face turned bright red. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Then Gook Swanching smiled and continued speaking. That being said, injuring someone is always wrong. Quickly apologize. Otherwise, they'll say that we from Chanwu Hall lack fraternal affection. Zhou Gofeng immediately stepped forward and apologized sincerely. Senior brothers, I Zhao Gofeng apologize. I truly didn't know you were so weak that you couldn't even withstand a single move. The Xuanwu Hall disciples were furious upon hearing this. You beat us up and then humiliate us. This is too much. One of the disciples beside him was also persuading Lu Heng. Hall Master, don't be polite with them. Let's fight back. At this moment, Lu Heng indeed had a dark expression. Since the disciples have already had their match, why don't we elders have a go as well? It would be a good opportunity to prove which of our 2 halls in the martial temple is stronger. Since it had come to this, Gook Swanchan could only agree. Soon everyone arrived at the arena. The disciples also wanted to know who was stronger between the 2. Gook Swanchan, a bit curious, asked what they were going to compete in. What do you want to compete in? The chubby man with a smile on his face looked somewhat cute. I know that senior brother is definitely stronger than me in martial arts. In our Xuanwu Hall we specialize in formations. I wonder if senior brother dares to compete in this. The disciples below immediately reminded Gook Swanchan to sit down. Uncle Lu is the number 1 in the array Dao of our 100 battle hall. Upon hearing this, Gook Swanchan immediately became interested. He really wanted to see the array Dao of the sacred domain. Gook Swanchan agreed. Then let's use the fairest method, the array plate competition. Each person will use an empty array plate to carve their respective arrays on it, then trap the opponent. In the end, whoever exits the opponent's array first wins. Gook Swanchan smiled. This suits me perfectly. I'll just take a look at the array techniques of the sacred domain and see how they differ from those of Qinjian continent. Lu Heng whipped out his array disc with a confident look. I've never lost in the way of formations. Gook Swan, lacking an array disc, had to ask Zhao Gufeng if he had one prepared. Zhao Gufeng could only say with an embarrassed look, Senior uncle, I do have array discs. It's just that Tianwu Hall has always been the last of the 4 halls, never getting any good formation discs. Gook Suchin didn't care. With a flick of his fingers, the formation disc instantly flew towards him. They're all my disciples. He is the number 1 formation master in Qindian continent. He only just ascended to the upper realm, his seat not even warm yet, and already someone wants to test their formations against him. It's a good opportunity for him to see the formations of the sacred realm. What is different about this formation compared to those on the Azure Cloud continent? At this moment, the eldest disciple of the Xuanwu Hall, Chen Hanfeng, wore a confident expression. Our hall master has never been defeated in the art of formations in the past 100 years. Moreover, the formation disc in the hall master's hand is a magical tool with boundless spiritual power. One of the junior brothers, curious, asked, since Hall Master Lu is so powerful, he should have long become a renowned figure in the holy domain. That's because you don't understand our hall master. Although he's exceptionally skilled in formations, he's not someone who enjoys fighting. His only hobby is enjoying fine food. The only thing that can make him serious is an obstacle that interferes with his enjoyment. To ensure that Hall Master Lu would give his all, Chen Hanfeng directly sent out the sex summoning signal. Soon they heard the sound of many footsteps approaching. Even Dongfeng Hai from the Hongwu Hall and Lu Bin from the Duwu Hall arrived. Hall Master of Hongwu Hall? Chen Hanfeng immediately came up to greet them, saying, 2 master uncles, you've arrived just in time. My Hall Master and Master Gu, who just emerged from seclusion, are about to have a formation array competition. Please be our witnesses. The 2 became interested. This is a senior who has been in seclusion for 1,000 years. It's a good opportunity to see his strength. The competition had already begun. Everyone began to carve their formations on their own arrays. This fat man's formation is not to be trifled with. He was the first to complete the carving of his formation. Then he launched a formation attack against Gook Suchin. Immediately a dazzling light burst forth. It was so bright that everyone couldn't open their eyes. At the same time, Gook Suchin disappeared within the light. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself surrounded by a sea of fire. The terrifying flames engulfed his entire body, burning his flesh and his soul at the same time. This formation could probably instantly kill anyone below the Emperor realm. Even those in the late Emperor realm would struggle to break the formation. It's been a long time since I felt this kind of pressure. This sacred realm's formation is quite interesting. Then Guxuchin activated a secret technique he hadn't used in years. He could only see the energy in his chest slowly gathering. In the next moment, with a loud shout from him, his body strengthened. He originally thought this would completely block the erosion of the formation, but to his surprise, the next second, the flames scattered around, actually gathered together with a rumbling sound in midair. Guxuanshin also shocked. This flame is infused with Lu Heng's law power. Has it gained sentience? They are all my disciples. This man has been invincible for tens of thousands of years. Now he's forced to use forbidden techniques. So it turns out he was competing in an array battle with a fat man. As both sides activated their arrays, the next moment he found himself in a sea of fire. These flames are not only burning his body, but also I haven't felt this kind of pressure in a long time. This sacred realm's formation is interesting. Then he activated a secret technique, physical body enhancement. This way he could completely isolate himself from the formation's erosion. Just then, the flames that were burning him rapidly converged towards one place. Guxuanshin was also startled. He didn't expect that the formation set by Lord Lu would actually awaken spiritual intelligence. With the dragon's roar echoing, a giant dragon with flaming scales and two horns appeared in midair, charging towards him at an incredibly fast speed. Guxuanshin just smiled as he watched the massive creature pouncing at him. It was becoming more and more interesting. Meanwhile, outside the formation, Guxuanshin's warning stone kept flashing red light. The disciples of the Tanwu Hall broke out in a cold sweat upon seeing this scene. The difficulty of the formation has increased. Uncle Gu must break the formation within the time of one incense stick, otherwise there will be a danger to his life. On the other hand, at the Xuanwu Hall, Master Lu's warning stone was completely still. Just as Chen Hanfeng thought this competition was already without suspense, just as Xuanwu Hall was about to win. Suddenly, the originally quiet warning stone in Hall Master Lu's hall exploded with a bang. This startled everyone present. No one knew what had happened. Meanwhile, Lu Heng within the formation could no longer remember how many clones he had killed. They had piled up into a mountain. Before he could catch his breath, another Lu Heng stood on top of the pile of corpses shouting for more. Lu Heng, covered in cold sweat, looked at yet another person who looked exactly like him. Meanwhile, on the other side, Guxuanshin was locked in battle with the two-horned giant dragon, exchanging blows. With a swing of his sword, he struck directly at the dragon's head. Finally, the two-horned giant dragon fell to the ground with a loud thud. Its head had already been severed by Guxuanshin. After a short while, the two-horned giant dragon was revived again, spat a jet of flames at him. Guxuanshin just smiled faintly. Ignorance really is a kind of bliss. He then swung his sword a few times at the two-horned giant dragon. This time, the two-horned giant dragon was sliced into several pieces by him. However, the next second, an enraged roar sounded behind him. Guxuanshin was also startled. He quickly turned around to look. Before he could react, a dragon's claw had already struck down. There was a loud crash. After taking the strike from the dual-horned giant dragon, a surge of black mist suddenly appeared on Guxuanshin's back. Before he could figure out what was happening, the dual-horned giant dragon was preparing to breathe fire at him. Guxuanshin no longer thought too much. He gripped his sword with both hands, shouted loudly, and charged forward. In an instant, a terrifying and sharp sword intent swept across the entire sea of fire. The two-horned dragon was instantly torn into countless pieces by this sword intent. Guxuanshin raised his left hand, looking at it with a puzzled expression. What was that black mist that appeared on him just now? It was all my disciples doing. This was the first time this man had fought against someone from the Holy Domain using formations. He didn't expect the upper realm's formations to be so formidable. Even using secret techniques, he still suffered minor injuries. So he chose to remain within the formation to recuperate for a while. At the same time, the other two hall masters in the square became a little worried. Brother Lu, wouldn't he have encountered some danger? Normally the contest should have ended when the warning stone exploded, but they waited for a long time and still didn't see Lu Heng come out. It was at this moment. The formation disc carved by Guxuanshin spun rapidly, emitting a humming sound. The next second, Lu Heng collapsed to the ground, still coughing and gasping for air. Gone was the confident demeanor he once had. The two hall masters saw this and immediately rushed to support the still trembling Lu Heng. The disciples of the Heavenly Martial Hall, seeing that Hall Master Lu had emerged, but still hadn't seen their uncle master, couldn't help but feel a bit worried. Xiao Gofeng could only comfort everyone, telling them not to worry. They should trust their master uncle. He will be fine. He might just be delayed a little. At that moment, the formation plate drawn by Lu Heng began to spin rapidly. The plate emitted a continuous flash of light. In the next instant, Guxuanshin appeared in front of everyone. He seemed even more heroic than when he entered. The disciples of Chanwu Hall gathered around. They began to ask if Guxuanshin was alright. Guxuanshin simply shrugged his hands and said, "What could possibly be wrong with me?" Then he looked at Lu Heng, still with a face as if he were educating a junior. "Not bad, you came out a little faster than I expected." But at this moment, Lu Bin noticed that the aura around Guxuanshin had changed. The power of the laws was much denser than before he entered. Guxuanqing seemed to have noticed the doubt in the hall master's eyes and grinned. Junior brother Lu's formation is indeed impressive. I just had a small practical test and didn't expect to break through. However, the truth is that he only suffered a minor injury, so he rested in Lu Heng's formation for a while, and took the opportunity to cultivate the books collected from the heavenly martial hall. This was to avoid arousing the disciples' suspicions. At this moment, Chen Hanfeng couldn't sit still and loudly shouted, "Even if Uncle Gu broke through, what does that have to do with this competition? According to the rules, since our hall master is the first to come out, we should be the victors of Xuanwu Hall." Before he could finish speaking, Lu Heng raised his hand and stood up to show that he fully accepted his defeat in this competition. Chen Hanfeng was a little reluctant and still wanted to persuade their hall master, but was immediately yelled at by Lu Heng. "If you don't want to embarrass yourself, shut up," because only he knew in his heart, he simply didn't have the ability to break the formation. If it weren't for Guxuanqing showing mercy, I might not have even had the chance to escape, and that formation was really damn creepy. Kill one and another would come. Eventually they came in groups. Damn it, from now on, I, your humble master, will only eat delicious food and never fight again. Thinking of this, he hurriedly bowed and cupped his fist to Guxuanqing. Today, senior brother Digyu gave me guidance. Only then did I realize that there are always others more skilled than oneself. In the future, I, Lu, will definitely keep a closer watch on my disciples. I won't let them cause any more trouble. Chen Hanfeng was dissatisfied and wanted to say something. Just as he was about to speak the words hall master, Lu Heng slapped him, sending him flying. He said one sentence, "Brother Gu is truly deserving of being the number one in the 100 Battles Hall." He then led the disciples away. At this moment, the disciples of the Heavenly Martial Hall were still in a daze. They actually won like this. Once they regained their senses, they all cheered in unison. The two hall masters Liu Bin and Dongfang Hai exchanged a knowing glance. Then they led their respective disciples and kneeled before Guxuanqing. "We request Brother Gu to take the position of the new Grand Master of the 100 Battles Hall." He seemed afraid Xuchen would refuse. Lu Binman quickly explained, "Senior Brother Gu, you may not know, our 100 Battles Hall hasn't had a Grand Master for many years. Since the old Grand Master passed away, the 4 halls have been leaderless. Since then, morale has plummeted, and it's no longer the 100 Battles Hall of old. Since your emergence from seclusion, the disciples of the Heavenly Martial Hall, under your guidance, have not only greatly increased in strength and the unity of the people, this is enough to prove your extraordinary martial arts and exceptional leadership. You are even more impressive when it comes to formations. Even Brother Lu admits defeat to you. With such strength and leadership, why not become the head of the sect? Lead us to revive the sect together. They're all my disciples." This man ruled the lower realms for tens of thousands of years. Just by rising a few levels, he could make the entire sect submit to him. Although he was mistakenly thought to be the senior uncle who had been in closed-door meditation for thousands of years, he did not want to get involved in the sect's affairs. Looking at the crowd kneeling and begging him to become the head of the sect, he thought carefully and realized that there were many benefits to becoming the head of the sect. Not only could he freely allocate the sect's resources, but he could also enter the treasure vault in the 100 Battles Hall. If he could browse through the ancient texts there, firstly, it allows me to learn more about the sacred domain. Secondly, I can use this resource to rapidly improve my cultivation. It might even help me figure out what the dark energy inside my body is. Thinking of these benefits, he agreed. Immediately, a loud voice echoed throughout the battle hall. "Greetings, Grand Hall Master." Over the next month, Guxuanqing not only made the disciples of the battle hall's strength grow rapidly, he also broke through from the original Wangxiang realm to the Tongyu realm. His only worry was the black energy in his body that he still hadn't figured out. Even after he reviewed the most core secrets of the Baizan Hall, he still couldn't find a single clue about the black energy. One day the 3 hall masters came to Guxuanqing together. It turned out that it was the day for Baizan Hall to pay tribute to Tianjin sect again. They came to ask Guxuanqing about this year's tribute. Sitting in the main hall, Guxuanqing wore an expression of indifference. Who would have the guts to make him, Guxuanqing, pay tribute? Dongfang Hai, seeing this, quickly began to explain. "Master, you've been in seclusion for so long, you might not know yet. Shenzhen sect suddenly rose to power several hundred years ago. It became the strongest sect in the northern part of the Holy Domain. In recent years, they have gathered hundreds of large and small forces. As long as you submit or tribute certain resources to them every year, it's enough. We can receive the protection of the Tianjin sect. Since the passing of our old hall master over the years, the Baizan Hall has been declining year after year. It is precisely because of the protection of the Tianjin sect that even though the Baizan Hall has repeatedly fallen, as long as we pay our annual tribute, we can still manage to hold on." At this moment, a disciple rushed over and shouted, "Hall Master, it's bad. Elderkin from the Tianjin sect has brought people and barged in." At this moment, the main hall was already filled with people from the Tianjin sect. The one at the forefront is Kun Chaiming, an elder of the Tianjin sect. The others are the leaders of various major forces gathered by the Tianjin sect. Soon Guxuanqing also entered with the group. He cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, everyone." As soon as he finished speaking, Kun Changming spoke first. "A few days ago, we learned that the 100 Battles Hall has a new hall master. We couldn't wait to come here to congratulate you. I didn't expect that the Valley Master would just become the head of the 100 Battle Hall, and already completely disregard our Chanjin sect. Has he even forgotten the proper etiquette of kneeling?" Upon hearing this, Lu Bin was instantly furious. "He's actually asking our sect master to kneel to you, an elder? Isn't this clearly meant to cause trouble?" He was about to retort when Gu Swanching stopped him with a gesture. Seeing this, Kun Chaming became even more audacious. If Valley Master has been in seclusion for so many years and truly possesses such extraordinary abilities, then it wouldn't be impossible for them to attack your 100 Battles Hall in the future. Gu Suchin simply smiled calmly. "Since Elder Kun's kindness is hard to refuse, then I will humbly accept." Lu Bin and the others behind him were startled by Gu Suchin's words. Before he could say anything, Gu Suchin had already walked towards the throne in the center of the hall. After sitting down, he raised his left hand and said in a deep voice, "The tribute you return to the 100 Battles Hall must be doubled." Kun Chaming, hearing this, was instantly furious. "Boy, don't push your luck." However, Gu Suchin found it quite interesting and added fuel to the fire. "Do I need you to give me face? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? With your current state, you should have abdicated long ago." Kun Chaming was instantly furious upon hearing this. "You brat dare to offend my heavenly array sect. Don't you consider whether you can bear the consequences of our wrath?" Having said that, Kun Chaming led the heavenly array sect disciples in activating an array. In an instant, the entire hall was enveloped by the array. Seeing this, Gu Suchin was about to make a move, when he suddenly felt the array was somewhat familiar. Suddenly he seemed to remember something. "Isn't this the 4 symbols joint strike formation that I transmitted to the little madman?" Before he could think much more, the sound of Qin Changming's manic laughter reached his ears. "The 100 Battles Hall dares to challenge our Tianjin sect. They deserve to die. We will execute them on the spot to set an example."